coffee cup shattered against marble, porcelain shards skittering across the floor like shrapnel. Amara Okafor's scream tore through the ornate bedroom as Yi-Sung Kang's body convulsed violently, his back arching off the floor in a grotesque bow. Foam bubbled from his lips, pink tinged with blood where he'd bitten his tongue. "Get the activated charcoal." Amara dropped to her knees beside him, her strong hands already moving to clear his airway. "Deyo! Tiem dikada! Begu gu no!" The door exploded inward. 5 men in black suits flooded the room, weapons drawn. Di-ho Young led them, his weathered face twisted in fury, his stocky frame blocking the doorway like a bull ready to charge. The small scar tissue on his knuckles was white against his tanned skin as he gripped his gun. "Step away from him." His gravelly voice cracked like a whip. "He's dying." Amara didn't look up, her amber eyes fixed on Yi-Sung's pale face. His sharp features were slack, those dark hooded eyes that usually calculated every angle now rolled back, showing only whites. "It's cyanide poisoning, maybe 90 seconds before cardiac arrest." "You poisoned him." A younger guard lunged forward, pressing his gun barrel against Amara's temple. The cold metal bit into her skin, just above the small mole on her upper lip. "You made that coffee." "I didn't." Her fingers found Yi-Sung's carotid artery. The pulse was erratic, fading. "I brought the coffee, but I didn't make it. Someone poisoned the cup itself." Her British Nigerian accent sharpened with desperation. "Now either shoot me or get me that fucking charcoal." Yi-Sung's body jerked again, a horrible rattling emerging from his chest. His expensive Patek Philippe watch caught the light as his arm flopped uselessly. The dragon tattoo on his left ribcage was visible where his black silk shirt had ridden up. The ink seemed to writhe with each labored breath. Di-ho's small dark eyes darted between them. Crow's feet deepened as he calculated odds, loyalties, truth. His missing right pinky finger twitched an old nervous tell. "Chen, the bag." "Nino W." A guard threw a black medical kit across the floor. Amara's hands were already moving, her calloused fingertips flying over supplies with the precision of someone who'd worked trauma surgery in Lagos's busiest hospitals. She'd saved politicians, criminals, children. She'd be damned if she let this man die on her watch. Not after everything. Not after 3 weeks of morning coffee rituals and careful trust building. Not after he'd saved her from deportation, from the Nigerian assassins still hunting her. Hold his jaw. She barked at Di-ho, mixing activated charcoal with water in a dosing syringe. "And someone call for an ambulance." "No hospitals." Di-ho knelt heavily, his tactical boots squeaking against marble. His barrel chest blocked the other guard's line of fire on Amara. "Boss's orders. No hospitals. Ivir." "Then he dies." Amara forced Yi-Sung's jaw open, his teeth stained pink. She could see the man he'd been just 10 minutes ago pouring her coffee with those long pianist fingers, almost smiling at something she'd said about Korean breakfast food. Now those same lips were turning blue. The heart monitor one of the guards had brought screamed its warning. "IT beats per minute. 70, 60. I need to intubate if this doesn't work." Amara squeezed the charcoal solution down his throat, her heart hammering against her ribs. She'd been in her worn scrubs when this started, the same cheap clinic clothes she'd worn during her double shift yesterday. Now they were soaked with coffee and the sharp tang of her own fierce sweat. Her box braids, carefully done last week, swung forward as she tilted Yi-Sung's head back. "You have 30 seconds to explain why we shouldn't execute you." Di-ho's voice was flat, but his weathered face showed something else. Doubt, maybe even hope. "Because I've saved his life twice in 3 weeks." Amara grabbed the bag valve mask, forcing oxygen into Yi-Sung's lungs. The alley shooting eye stitched him when he was bleeding out and his precious Min-He drove away. The infection 2 days later, I caught it before sepsis killed him. Her rich dark brown skin glistened with sweat under the chandelier's harsh light. "Why the hell would I poison him now?" 50 beats per minute. 45. "The coffee was meant for both of us." Amara's voice dropped, realization hitting like ice water. "We both drink from those custom cups every morning." Someone knew the routine. Di-ho's eyes widened. Min-He handles the kitchen staff schedule. The monitor flatlined, one long, endless tone that turned Amara's blood to ice. "No." She slammed her palms against Yi-Sung's chest once, twice, counting compressions the way her professors at Lagos Medical School had drilled into her. His sternum flexed under her hands. She felt a rib crack. "Come on, you stubborn bastard. You don't get to die on me." 30 compressions. She sealed her lips over his, forcing breath into his lungs. His lips were cold. She tasted bitter almonds, the cyanide. Didn't care. 30 more compressions. Boss. Diho's gravelly voice cracked. Boss, come on. Nothing. The monitor's flat line stretched into eternity. Amara's arms burned, her shoulders screamed. She'd done CPR for 40 minutes once on a teenager in Lagos. The girl had lived. Yi-Sung Kang the Reaper, the man whose name made criminals cross themselves, would not die in a bedroom that cost more than her childhood home. Please, she whispered between compressions. Please, Yi-Sung, you owe me a blood debt, remember? You can't collect if you're dead. His body jerked. Not a convulsion, different. The monitor beeped. Once, twice, a rhythm establishing itself. Yi-Sung's dark eyes snapped open, focusing with terrifying clarity directly on Amara's face. His hand shot up, iron-strong despite everything, wrapping around her wrist. His pale skin was clammy but warming. Those sharp aristocratic features twisted with effort as he dragged in a ragged breath. Then another. The monitor steadied. 60 beats, 70, 80. Amara collapsed back on her heels, her whole body shaking. Her right palm, the one with the glass-cut scar from her escape from Nigeria, throbbed where he gripped it. You're alive. You stubborn, impossible, you're alive. Yi-Sung's voice was barely a whisper, rough as gravel. Twice, you said twice. 3 times now. Amara's laugh came out broken, almost hysterical. You're welcome, by the way. His grip tightened on her wrist. Those calculating eyes, dark brown, almost black, held hers with an intensity that made her stomach flip. Who? I don't know yet. Diho leaned close, his broken nose nearly touching his boss's face. But we're going to find out. Yi-Sung's jaw clenched, that small scar cutting through his left eyebrow standing out stark against his pale skin. With visible effort, he turned his head toward the doorway where his guards still stood, weapons ready. The cup, bring me the cup. Boss, you need to rest, Amara started. The cup. His voice was stronger now, carrying that edge of command that made men twice his size obey without question. And get Min-Hee, now. Amara watched realization dawn on Diho's weathered face. His small eyes went hard, and his stocky frame seemed to coil with barely restrained violence. You think she? I don't think. I know. Yi-Sung tried to sit up, failed, grimaced at the weakness. His dragon tattoo flexed with the movement. She was in the kitchen this morning. Alone. Said she wanted to surprise me. The words hung in the air like poison themselves. She knew I'd drink first, Yi-Sung continued, his dark hooded eyes moving to Amara. I always taste your coffee before giving it to you. Every morning for 3 weeks. She knew. Amara's heart dropped into her stomach. You've been testing my coffee? For poison? For anything? A ghost of his usual calculating expression flickered across his sharp features. Trust is earned in my world, Dr. Okafor. Even from the woman who saved my life. He paused, then added with something that might have been respect. Twice. 3 times now. Before Amara could process that, before she could unpack the fact that this man had been protecting her while suspecting her, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Multiple sets. Moving fast. Diho was on his feet instantly, his gun up. The other guards fanned out, covering angles with military precision. The bedroom door, ornate mahogany that probably cost more than a car, swung open with theatrical slowness. 3 weeks earlier, the rain fell in sheets across Seoul's Gangnam district, turning the neon-soaked streets into rivers of pink and blue light. Amara Okafor pulled her thin jacket tighter around her shoulders, cursing herself for taking the alley shortcut. Her sneakers squelched through puddles as she hurried past dumpsters and flickering emergency exits, her mind still buzzing with the chaos of her double shift at the underground clinic. 16 hours. 16 hours of stitching knife wounds, treating overdoses, and asking no questions. That was the deal when you worked off the books in a foreign country. No questions, no papers, no problems. Just cash under the table and the constant weight of invisibility pressing down on her chest like a physical thing. She was 3 steps past the alcove when she heard it, a wet, rattling breath that didn't belong to the rain. Amara froze. Every instinct screamed at her to keep walking. In the 6 months since she'd fled Nigeria, she'd learned that survival meant minding your own business. She'd seen things in Lagos that taught her when to look away. The politician's assassination, the blood spreading across white hospital tiles, the assassin's eyes locking with hers through the observation window. Senator Okonkwo shot twice in the chest while recovering from routine surgery. She'd been adjusting his IV when the door opened and a man in hospital scrubs raised a silenced pistol. She'd run, left her career, her family, her entire life. bought a fake passport with money she'd saved for her mother's surgery, and disappeared into the sprawl of Seoul where African immigrants could vanish into teaching English or, in her case, working illegal clinics for cash. Being a witness was a death sentence. She'd learned that lesson. But that sound, that desperate, drowning gasp for air. Her hands were moving before her brain caught up, reaching into her worn canvas bag for the penlight she always carried. She turned, her amber eyes scanning the darkness until the beam caught something that made her heart stop. Blood. So much blood pooling between the cobblestones like spilled wine, running in rivulets toward the gutter. Jesus Christ, she whispered. The man was crumpled against the brick wall like discarded trash, one hand pressed uselessly against his side where crimson seeped between his long fingers. Even in the dim light, Amara recognized the quality of his suit. Tom Ford, maybe Brioni. The kind of tailoring that cost more than she'd earned in the last 3 months. His face was pale as death itself, sharp cheekbones and a strong jawline clenched against pain. Black hair, styled in that expensive undercut, was plastered to his forehead with rain and sweat. She knew that face. Everyone in Seoul's underground knew that face. Min-Jun Kang, the Reaper, the man whose name made hardened criminals cross themselves and spit for luck. The mafia boss who controlled half of Gangnam's nightlife, who settled disputes with surgical precision and left no witnesses. Amara's first thought was to run. Her second thought was the same. Her third thought was drowned out by her medical training kicking in like muscle memory. Gunshot wound, right side, possible liver involvement, she muttered, already dropping to her knees beside him. Her hands moved automatically, pressing her jacket against the wound. The fabric soaked through instantly. Sir, can you hear me? His eyes opened dark, calculating even through the pain. They focused on her face with frightening clarity, taking in her heart-shaped face, her full cheeks, the small mole above her right lip. Recognition flickered. Of course he recognized her. Men like him made it their business to know every face in their territory. You're, his voice was rough, accented, the clinic, the African doctor. Nurse, Amara corrected automatically, though she had a medical degree from Lagos Medical School. But degrees didn't matter without papers. Don't talk. How long ago were you shot? 5 minutes. He coughed and blood flecked his lips. Maybe 10. They ambushed us at the docks. Amara's trained eye assessed the damage. Entry wound, no exit. Bullet still inside. Internal bleeding definitely. She needed to get him to a hospital, needed real equipment, her penlight caught movement down the alley. A black sedan, headlights off, idling at the far end. Just sitting there, watching. Is that your people? Amara asked, hope flaring. They can take you too? No. His hand shot up, surprisingly strong, gripping her wrist. His pale skin was cold against her rich, dark brown complexion. That's me fiancé. Relief flooded through Amara. Okay, good. Let me flag her down. She's waiting for me to die. The words hit like a slap. Amara stared at him, certain she'd misheard. What? Yi-sung's grip tightened on her wrist, those dark hooded eyes burning into hers. She set this up. The ambush. She's waiting to confirm I'm dead before driving away. Another cough. More blood. She miscalculated. Thought I'd die. Faster. As if responding to her name, the sedan's engine revved once. A clear message. Time was running out. That's insane, Amara whispered. But even as she said it, she remembered the lessons from Lagos. Trust no one. Family betrayed family. Love was just another weapon. Why would power, money? Take your pick. His breathing was getting shallower. Doesn't matter. What matters is you need to go. Now. Before she sees you. You'll die. Better me than you. His laugh was bitter, painful. She doesn't leave. Witnesses. The sedan's headlights flicked on, illuminating the alley entrance. A warning, or perhaps just confirmation that yes, she could see him. Yes, she was watching him bleed out. Yes, she was going to drive away and let him die in the rain like a dog. Amara's mind raced. This was exactly the kind of situation she'd fled Nigeria to avoid. Witnessing things she shouldn't witness. Getting involved with dangerous people. Becoming a target. The smart move, the survival move, was to stand up, apologize to this dying man, and disappear into the soul night. Let him die. Let his fiancée collect her blood money. Amara would go back to her tiny apartment, her illegal clinic work, her invisible life. She looked at the car, then at Yi-sung, at the blood seeping between her fingers where she pressed her jacket against his wound, at his face sharp and pale but somehow resigned, accepting, as if betrayal was just another business transaction gone wrong. Fuck it, Amara muttered. She pulled off her jacket completely, wadded it against his wound, and grabbed his hand to replace hers with his. Keep pressure here. Don't you dare die on me in the next 60 seconds. What are you? But Amara was already digging through her canvas bag. Hemostats, surgical thread, a half-empty bottle of veterinary antibiotics she'd stolen from the clinic, a sealed scalpel. The tools of her illegal trade always with her because you never knew when someone would stumble into the clinic bleeding and desperate. I'm going to fish that bullet out, she said, pulling on the latex gloves she always carried. Right here, right now, with no anesthetic and barely any light. It's going to hurt like hell and you might die anyway. But if I don't, you're definitely dead in about 10 minutes. Yi-sung stared at her like she'd grown a second head. You're insane. Probably. Amara positioned her penlight between her teeth, the beam focused on his wound. Her hands were steady despite everything years of emergency medicine in Lagos had burned the tremors out of her. But you're bleeding out and your loving fiancé is watching from that car. So unless you've got a better plan, shut up and try not to scream. I don't need her knowing you're still alive. Not yet. She didn't wait for permission. Her fingers pulled back the torn fabric of his expensive shirt, exposing the wound. Clean entry. Right side. Missing the liver by maybe an inch. Lucky, unlucky, depending on your perspective. The scalpel was cold in her hand. The rain was deafening. And somewhere behind her, that black sedan continued to idle, headlights illuminating the alley like a stage spotlight on her greatest or last performance. Amara made the first cut, and Yi-sung Kang's body went rigid with pain. But he didn't scream. The bullet was lodged between two ribs, pressing against tissue that was already swelling from trauma. Amara's fingers worked with the precision of someone who'd done this 100 times in worse conditions: Lagos power outages, patients screaming, families wailing in corridors. This was almost peaceful by comparison, if you ignored the rain, the watching car, and the fact that she was performing field surgery on one of Seoul's most dangerous men. Breathing shallow, she muttered, more to herself than him. Her amber eyes never left her work. That's good. Keep it shallow. Deep breaths will shift everything. Yi-sung's pale face was a mask of controlled agony. His sharp jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscles jumping. Those dark eyes watched her with an intensity that should have been unnerving but somehow wasn't. He was cataloging her, she realized. Even dying, even in excruciating pain, he was filing away details. The way her box braids swung forward when she leaned close, the small scar on her right palm, the BCG vaccination mark on her left shoulder visible where her scrub sleeve had written up. You've done this before, he said through gritted teeth. Not a question. Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Trauma ward. Amara's hemostats clicked as she probed deeper, feeling for the bullet. Gunshot wounds were Tuesday. Machete attacks were Wednesday. Thursdays we got creative. She felt metal finally and her heart leapt. Got it. Don't move. Wasn't planning on dancing. Despite everything, Amara almost smiled. Dry humor while being operated on in an alley. Either he was in shock or he had nerves of steel. Probably both. The bullet came free with a wet sound that made her stomach turn even after all these years. She held it up to the Penlight 9mm, standard issue, slightly deformed from impact. Souvenir? Keep it. I have enough. His breathing was ragged but steadier now. The car? Amara glanced over her shoulder. The black sedan hadn't moved. Still watching, waiting, still there. She's patient, I'll give her that. Minhee's many things, patient is one of them. Yi-sung's voice was growing weaker. Blood loss. She needed to close this wound, get fluids in him, get him somewhere safe, strategic, cold, beautiful like a knife is beautiful. Sounds like a lovely relationship. Amara threaded her surgical needle, the kind she'd stolen from the clinic along with everything else in her bag. Her fingers moved automatically, muscle memory from thousands of stitches. This is going to hurt worse than the extraction. Everything hurts. What's a little more? She worked quickly, her stitches small and precise. In Lagos, they'd called her spider hands because of how fast and delicate she could suture. The skill had followed her to Seoul, made her valuable to the underground clinic, kept her employed and invisible. Or it had kept her invisible. Until tonight. Why did you save me? Yi-sung asked suddenly. His dark hooded eyes were half closed now. Exhaustion or blood loss or both dragging him down. You know who I am. What I am. Amara tied off a stitch, started another. Hippocratic oath. First, do no harm. Doesn't have a footnote that says unless they're a criminal. You're lying. You ran from something in Nigeria. Something bad enough to make you leave everything. His voice was fading but certain. Someone who runs doesn't stop running, doesn't risk themselves for a stranger. especially not someone like me. Her hands paused for just a fraction of a second. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. 6 months ago, an African woman started working at Dr. Kim's clinic in It. No papers, no background check, paid under the table. Nigerian accent with British education. Medical degree probably, but working as a nurse. Doesn't go out, doesn't socialize. Keeps her head down like someone's hunting her. He coughed, winced. I own 3 buildings on that street. You think I don't know everyone who works in them? Amara's heart hammered against her ribs. If you knew all that, why didn't I report you? Deport you? Use you? His laugh was dry. Because people running from something are useful. Loyal if treated right. Desperate enough to be valuable but smart enough to survive. A pause. And because I liked knowing there was someone in my territory who owed me nothing. No obligations, no debts, just existing. She finished the last stitch, her hands trembling now that the adrenaline was wearing off. Well, congratulations. Now I've saved your life. That changes things, doesn't it? In my world, everything. His pale hand moved slowly, deliberately, until it rested on her wrist again. His skin was warming slightly, which meant he might actually survive this. Blood debt. You saved me. That means you're mine to protect now, whether you want it or not. I don't want it. Doesn't matter. The debt exists. His grip tightened with surprising strength. Which means when that car comes for confirmation, when Min-Hee's people check this alley, you become a target. A witness to my survival. She'll kill you just for being here. Amara's mouth went dry, of course. She'd been so focused on the immediate medical emergency that she hadn't thought through the implications. The woman in that car was waiting for him to die. If he survived, if Amara helped him survive, then Amara became a problem that needed solving. So what do I do? The words came out smaller than she intended. Run again? You can try. She'll find you in 48 hours, maybe less. Yi-sung's dark eyes held hers. Or you come with me, under my protection. Let me invoke the blood debt. She can't touch you if you're mine. Utes, Amara yanked her wrist free. I'm not a possession. No. You're a doctor who just saved a mafia boss's life in an alley while his fiancée watched. You're about to be a corpse if you don't make a smart choice. His bluntness was shocking. I'm offering you protection, a place to stay. Legitimate work if you want it. Or you can go back to your illegal clinic and wait for Min-Hee's people to find you. Your choice. The sedan's engine revved again, louder this time. Decision time. Amara looked at her hands covered in his blood, in her own sweat, in rain. She thought about Lagos, about Senator Okonkwo bleeding out while she ran, about 6 months of living like a ghost, always looking over her shoulder, waiting for the day someone from Nigeria would find her, about how tired she was of running. If I come with you, she said slowly, I'm not your property. I'm not your servant. I work for you fine, but I'm still my own person. Agreed. And if you touch me or hurt me, or I don't hurt people who saved my life. Yi-sung's smile was slight but genuine. Honor code. Old-fashioned, I know. But it's kept me alive this long. He paused. Well, usually. Despite everything, the insanity of the situation, the danger, the blood, Amara found herself almost laughing. You have a terrible sense of humor. I'm dying in an alley. Cut me some slack. He tried to sit up, failed, grimaced. Help me stand. We need to move before she gets suspicious. Amara wrapped his arm around her shoulders, taking most of his weight. He was heavier than he looked, all lean muscle under that expensive suit. The dragon tattoo on his ribcage pressed against her side as they struggled upright. He smelled like expensive cologne, rain, and copper blood. Where are we going? She asked. There's a safe house, 3 blocks east. Can you make it? Can you? I've walked farther with worse. But his breathing was labored, his pale skin clammy. He was running on pure willpower now. The car. Don't look directly at it. If she sees your face clearly, I know. I'm a witness. Amara kept her head down, her box braids forming a curtain around her face. Her heart hammered as they stumbled past the alcove, into the deeper shadows of the alley. Walk naturally, like we're drunk. Not hard. I feel drunk. His weight sagged against her. Amara, that's your name, right? Yes. Don't let me pass out. If I pass out, leave me. Get yourself safe. Not happening. Stubborn. You have no idea. They made it 5 steps before his phone rang. The sound was obscenely loud in the rain-soaked alley, a cheerful K-pop ringtone that seemed to mock the situation. Ji-sung froze, and Amara felt his entire body go rigid. It's her, he said quietly. Min-Hee. The phone continued to ring. Amara could see the screen lighting up his pocket, could imagine the caller ID, could imagine the woman in the car, phone to her ear, watching the alley, watching for movement, for confirmation. Answer it, Amara whispered. Let her think you're dying. She'll hear your voice. Then you do all the talking. Yi-sung pulled the phone from his pocket with shaking hands. His thumb hovered over the screen. For a moment, Amara saw past the mafia boss, the Reaper, the man who made criminals cross themselves. She saw someone betrayed, someone hurt, someone human. He answered. Put it on speaker. Yi-sung? Min-hee's voice was honey-sweet, concern dripping from every syllable. Perfect acting. Where are you? I heard there was trouble at the docks. Are you safe? Silence. Yi-sung's dark eyes met Amara's. 1,000 decisions in that look. Ye-sung? Baby, answer me. I'm so worried. I'm here. His voice was rough, pain, not much acting required. The docks. There were so many. Oh God, are you hurt? Where are you exactly? Warehouse district, near the old shipping containers, said he. They were nowhere near there. Min-hee. I don't know if I can make it. Wow. So brief that someone who didn't know better might miss it, but Amara heard it. The calculation, the satisfaction. Hold on, baby. I'm calling for help right now. Just hold on. Min-hee's voice never wavered. Can you walk? Can you get somewhere safe? I don't think. Yi-sung let his voice trail off. Let the sound of rain fill the silence. Ye-sung? Ye-sung? He ended the call. She bought it, Amara asked. She bought it. His smile was grim. She'll send people to the warehouse district. That gives us maybe 10 minutes before she realizes I'm not there, before she starts expanding the search. He looked at her, really looked at her. Last chance to run, doctor. After this, you're committed. Amara thought about the black sedan, about Min-hee's perfect acting, about how she'd driven away and let him bleed, about the cold calculation in that brief pause. She thought about Lagos, about running, about 6 months of being invisible, about how she was so damn tired of being afraid. 3 blocks east, she said. Let's move. They stumbled through the rain like ghosts, Yi-sung's blood leaving a trail that the downpour quickly washed away. Behind them, the black sedan finally moved, pulling away from the alley with its headlights cutting through the darkness. Hunting, searching, confirming. But by then they were gone. The safe house was a nondescript apartment above a shuttered restaurant, accessed through a back entrance that Yi-sung opened with a key hidden in a fake electrical box. Amara half carried him up narrow stairs, her athletic build straining under his weight, her strong arms burning with effort. Code, he muttered. Door code, 1992. Your birthday? My sister's. Something flickered across his sharp features. Pain that had nothing to do with the bullet wound. Open it. The apartment was sparse but clean, a single room with a futon, a small kitchen, a bathroom, windows with blackout curtains, a first aid kit on the wall that was far more extensive than anything Amara had seen outside a hospital. She lowered Ye-sung onto the futon, and he collapsed with a groan that he probably didn't mean to let escape. His pale face was gray now, his lips tinged blue. Shock, blood loss, exhaustion. First aid kit, Amara ordered, already moving. IV fluids if you have them. Antibiotics. Something for pain, cabinet, everything's there. His dark hooded eyes were closing. Amara, the door. Lock it. Triple lock. She did, her hands moving on autopilot. 3 separate locks, each one heavier than the last. Then she turned back to him, to this man she'd saved, this dangerous stranger who'd just upended her entire carefully invisible life. Don't die on me now, she said, pulling supplies from the cabinet. I didn't carry you 3 blocks just to watch you code on a futon. Wouldn't dream of it. His voice was fading. Besides, haven't paid my debt yet. What debt? Saved your life. By bringing you here. That makes us even. That's not how blood debts work. It is, in my world. His eyes closed completely. Wake me up if I stop breathing. Then he was out. Amara worked through the night, setting up an IV line, administering antibiotics, monitoring his vitals with a blood pressure cuff she found in the first aid kit. His pulse steadied. His color improved. His breathing deepened into something that looked almost like actual sleep rather than unconsciousness. Around 3 a.m., his phone buzzed. Amara checked it without thinking, a habit from the clinic, checking patients' phones for emergency contacts. 7 missed calls, all from Min-hee. 3 text messages. Where are you? The warehouse district is empty. Yi-sung, answer me. I'm coming to find you. Hold on, my love. Amara's blood ran cold. She looked at Yi-sung unconscious on the futon, his sharp features finally relaxed in sleep. Looked at the triple-locked door. Looked at her own reflection in the darkened window box, braids disheveled, scrubs covered in blood, amber eyes wide with the realization of what she'd gotten herself into. She'd saved a man whose fiancé wanted him dead. She'd made herself a target. She'd invoked some kind of blood debt she didn't understand in a world she didn't belong to. And somewhere out there in Seoul's rain-soaked streets, Min-Hee was hunting. Amara pulled out her phone, opened her contacts, scrolled to the single number she'd sworn never to call. Her cousin in Lagos, the one person who knew where she was. The one person she'd told about Senator Okonkwo, about the assassination, about running. Her finger hovered over the call button. Then she looked at Yi-sung again, at the man who'd told her she was under his protection now, who'd offered her a choice when she'd been invisible for 6 months, who'd thanked her for saving his life instead of threatening her, who'd told his fiancé he was dying just to buy Amara time to escape. She deleted the cousin's number, all of her Lagos contacts, every connection to her old life. If she was doing this, if she was really doing this, then she was all in. No more running, no more hiding. She'd saved the Reaper's life. Now she'd see where that blood debt led. Outside, the rain finally stopped, and Seoul's neon lights flickered back to life as dawn approached. Somewhere in the city, Min-Hee was searching. Somewhere plans were being made, revenge plotted, witnesses eliminated. But in that small safe house above a shuttered restaurant, Amara Okafor sat beside a sleeping mafia boss and committed to the most dangerous decision of her life. She just hoped she'd live long enough to regret it. Yi-sung woke at dawn with a gun in his hand. Amara barely had time to register the movement. One moment he was unconscious. The next his dark eyes were open, and a Glock 19 was pointed directly at her face. She froze, her hands up, her heart slamming against her ribs. "It's me," she said quietly. "Amara, the woman who saved your life. Remember?" Recognition flickered. The gun lowered slowly, and Yi-sung's sharp features twisted with something that might have been embarrassment if mafia bosses were capable of such things. "Reflex! Sorry. Where the hell did that even come from?" Under the pillow, he sat up with a wince, his pale skin still too gray for Amara's liking. The dragon tattoo on his ribcage was fully visible now. She'd cut away most of his shirt to access the wound. Always keep a weapon within reach. First rule of survival. Second rule should be don't shoot your doctor. Amara's hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was wearing off. She'd been checking his IV line when he'd woken. 3 inches closer and that gun would have been pressed against her forehead. "How do you feel?" "Like I was shot and operated on in an alley." He swung his legs off the futon, tested his weight. His expensive trousers were ruined, stiff with dried blood. "But alive, thanks to you. Don't thank me yet. You've got a long recovery ahead and I still need to." A phone buzzed, not his. Hers. Amara's stomach dropped. Nobody had her number. Nobody except the clinic, and they never called. Too much risk. Too many questions. She pulled the cheap burner phone from her pocket, stared at the unknown number flashing on the screen. "Don't answer it," Yi-sung said immediately. His voice had gone cold, calculating. "The Reaper was back. They're tracking you." "Who's they?" "Min-Hee, my cousin Yoon-jin, whoever set up the ambush." He was on his feet now, moving to the window despite the obvious pain. His lean, muscular frame was tense, coiled. "They've had all night to figure out I'm not at the warehouse district, to pull security footage from the docks, to see you in that alley." The phone continued to buzz. 3 rings. 4. "If they've seen me, then running won't help." Amara's mind raced through scenarios, outcomes, survival strategies. Maybe I should answer. Find out what they know. They know enough to find your number. That's already too much. Yi-sung let the blackout curtain fall back into place. "We need to move. This safe house is burned. You can barely walk. I've done more with worse." He moved to a closet, pulled out a black duffel bag. Started loading it with efficiency that spoke of practice weapons, cash, passports, phones. "Get your things. We leave in 2 minutes. I don't have things. Everything I own is in my apartment in Itaewon, which she couldn't go back to, which was probably being watched right now." The realization hit like cold water. "I have nothing, just this." She gestured to her blood-stained scrubs, her canvas bag with its stolen medical supplies. Yi-sung paused, really looked at her for the first time in daylight. Took in her rich, dark brown skin, her amber eyes wide with barely suppressed panic, her box braids falling loose from their tie. The small mole above her lip, the BCG scar on her shoulder, the way her strong hands trembled slightly. "Then you'll have everything you need by tonight." He pulled a black t-shirt from the closet, tossed it to her. "Change. Those scrubs make you memorable. We need you invisible." Amara caught the shirt, held it up. It would be massive on her, falling nearly to her knees. "This is your idea of invisible? Better than the African woman in blood-stained scrubs." His dark, hooded eyes held hers. Trust me. I've been running from people my whole life. I know how to disappear. She wanted to argue. Wanted to demand explanations, timelines, guarantees. But the phone in her hand buzzed again, a text message this time. Against every instinct she looked. We know you helped him. Give us his location and we'll let you leave Korea safely. Refuse and you'll join him. No signature, no name, just a threat wrapped in false mercy. They're offering me a deal, Amara said quietly. Yi-sung's jaw clenched, that small scar through his left eyebrow going white. Are you considering it? Was she? 6 months ago she would have taken any deal that got her out safely. Would have sold out anyone to survive. But 6 months ago she hadn't spent the night keeping a dying man alive. Hadn't felt his hand grip hers with desperate trust. Hadn't heard him tell his murderous fiancé he was dying just to buy Amara time. No, she said. I'm not. Something flickered across Yi-sung's sharp features. Relief maybe, or respect. Good, because they're lying. The moment you give them information, you become a loose end. He zipped the duffel bag closed. They'll kill you regardless. At least this way you go down fighting. That's supposed to be comforting? It's supposed to be honest. He moved to the door, checking the locks with practiced efficiency. I don't lie to people who've saved my life. Lying is what got me shot in the first place. Amara pulled off her scrub top, too tired and scared to be modest. The sports bra underneath was cheap, worn thin from washing. She yanked Ye-sung's black t-shirt over her head. It smelled like expensive detergent and something masculine she couldn't identify. Cedar, maybe. So what's the plan? We run until we can't run anymore. No. We run until I can figure out who betrayed me. He turned back to her, and she saw it then, the calculation in those dark eyes, the wheels turning. Someone knew I'd be at the docks, knew my route, knew my security detail. Someone inside my organization set me up. Min-Hee, possibly, probably. He ran a hand through his black hair, wincing as the movement pulled at his wound. But she's not smart enough to plan this alone. She had help. Yorkosen. Yoon-jin? Yi-sung's expression went carefully blank. How do you know about Yoon-jin? You said his name. Last night when you were half conscious. Amara was lying. She'd heard the name in the poisoning scene, but that hadn't happened yet in this timeline. She needed to be more careful. You said don't trust Yoon-jin. Did I? He studied her face, clearly trying to remember. The blood loss must have been worse than I thought, but yes. Yoon-jin, my cousin, my business partner. The only family I have left besides. He stopped abruptly. Besides your sister, the one whose birthday is the door code. Whose birthday was the code? His voice went flat. She's dead. 15 years now. The pain in those words was palpable. Amara wanted to ask more, wanted to understand this man she'd tied herself to, but footsteps echoed in the stairwell outside. Heavy. Multiple sets coming up. Yi-sung moved like lightning despite his injury, gun in hand, body positioned between Amara and the door. His lean frame was taut as a wire. How many locks did you do? All 3, like you said. Good. He gestured to the bathroom. Get in there. Lock it. If shooting starts, climb out the window. There's a fire escape. I'm not leaving you. You will if I tell you to. His voice carried absolute authority. I didn't survive this long by letting civilians die for me. Now move. But Amara had spent too many years in Lagos trauma wards to fold under pressure. She grabbed a heavy frying pan from the kitchen instead, positioned herself beside the door. I'm not a civilian. I'm a doctor, and I'm not leaving my patient. Yi-sung looked like he wanted to argue. Then a grim smile flickered across his pale face. You're going to be trouble, aren't you? You have no idea. A knock. 3 sharp raps against the door. Boss. A male voice, gravelly and familiar. It's Diho. Let me in before Min-Hee's people find this place. Ji-sung's entire body relaxed. He lowered the gun, started working the locks. How did you find me? Tracked your phone. I'm still listed as your emergency contact. The door opened to reveal a stocky man with a weathered face, broken nose, and graying buzz cut. His small dark eyes took in the scene. Yi-sung half-naked and bandaged, Amara holding a frying pan in an oversized t-shirt and his scarred knuckles flexed. So it's true. The African doctor saved your life. Nurse, Amara corrected automatically. Doctor, Yi-sung countered. He was already moving, grabbing the duffel bag. We need to move. How compromised is this location? Very. Diho stepped inside, and 2 more men followed, younger, harder, carrying obvious weapons under their jackets. Min-Hee's been calling everyone, saying you're missing, saying she's worried. But her people are hitting every safe house you own. They found the one in Gangnam 20 minutes ago. Anyone there? Empty. But they tore it apart looking for clues. Diho's gaze flicked to Amara again, assessing. Word is there was a witness at the docks, an African woman. Min-He's offering 50 million won for information about her location. Amara's knees went weak. 50 million won, nearly 40,000 US dollars, for her head. Then we make sure no one collects, Yi-sung said simply. He tossed the duffel bag to one of the younger men. Take that to the compound, the main one, not the satellite locations. I want everyone we trust assembled in the war room in 2 hours. Boss, if Min-He's dirty, the compound might not be safe. It's the only place that is safe. Ji-sung's voice cut like a blade. My security is tightest there. My people are most loyal there. And if there's a traitor in my organization, I want them somewhere I can watch them. He turned to Amara. You're coming with me, non-negotiable, to your compound, with everyone who might want me dead. To my compound where everyone will know you're under my protection. He pulled on a clean black jacket from the closet. Somehow he kept clothes in all these safe houses. In my world, protection means something. Break it and you forfeit your life. Even Min-He won't risk open defiance. Not yet. Diho grunted. The blood debt. You're invoking it. I'm invoking it. That's bold, boss. Bringing an outsider into the organization. People will talk. Let them. Ji-sung's dark eyes never left Amara's face. She saved my life when my own fiancé left me to die. That means something. That means everything. The weight of those words settled over the room like a physical thing. Amara felt herself being measured by Diho, by the 2 younger men, by Yi-sung himself. She was crossing a line here, stepping from one world into another. From invisible nurse to protected, what? Asset, ally, trophy, prisoner? I need guarantees, she said quietly. I need to know I'm not walking into a cage. You're not. How do I know that? Ji-sung moved closer, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could smell the cedar scent mixing with blood and sweat. Because if I wanted you caged, you'd already be caged. I want you alive, safe, able to work if you choose. The debt goes both ways. I owe you as much as you owe me. I don't owe you anything. You do. I'm keeping you alive right now. Keeping Min-He from finding you, from collecting on that bounty, from making you disappear like she disappears everyone who crosses her. His voice was gentle but firm. That's my debt, and I always pay my debts. Amara looked at Diho. Is he telling the truth? About the protection, about boss doesn't lie about blood debts. Diho's weathered face was serious. In our world it's sacred. Break it and you lose all honor, all respect. No one would ever trust you again. He paused. He's putting his reputation on the line for you. That's not nothing. It wasn't nothing. It was everything. And it terrified her. Okay, Amara said finally. I'll come to your compound. But I want my own room, my own space. And I want access to medical supplies, real supplies, not stolen clinic scraps. Done. And if I decide to leave, then you leave. With enough money to start over somewhere else. Somewhere Min-He can't find you. Yi-sung extended his hand, pale and elegant despite the situation. Do we have a deal? Amara looked at that hand. Looked at the man attached to it, sharp-featured and dangerous and somehow honorable in his own twisted way. Looked at Diho and the other man, at the guns and the violence they represented. She thought about Lagos, about Senator Okonkwo, about 6 months of running, about how tired she was of being afraid. She took his hand. His grip was firm, warm, alive. Deal. Diho released a breath he'd been holding. Right. Then let's move before Min-He's people triangulate this location. He gestured to the door. Cars are downstairs. 3 vehicles, different routes, all ending at the compound. Boss, you ride with me. The doctor rides with me, Yi-sung interrupted. She's my responsibility. I don't delegate that. They moved quickly, efficiently, down the stairs into the alley behind the restaurant. 3 black SUVs idled with tinted windows. Diho opened the rear door of the middle vehicle, and Yi-sung slid inside with only a slight grimace. Amara followed, her heart hammering. The interior was leather and luxury, such a stark contrast to the blood-soaked alley from last night. Yi-sung pulled out his phone, started making calls in rapid Korean. Amara caught bits and pieces. Her language skills were basic at best, but she heard Min-He, heard traitor, heard what sounded like orders being given. The convoy pulled out, and Seoul's morning traffic swallowed them. Amara watched the city slide past, the neon signs going dark in daylight, the pedestrians hurrying to work, the normal people living normal lives. She'd been one of them just yesterday, invisibly safe in her invisibility. Now she was in an SUV with a mafia boss, heading to his compound, with a price on her head and no way back to her old life. Regrets? Yi-sung asked quietly. He'd finished his calls, was watching her with those calculating dark eyes. Too many to count. She turned to face him. But not about saving your life. Not yet. Give it time. You might change your mind. Why? What's waiting for me at this compound? Questions. Suspicion. People who think you're a spy, a plant, a threat. His sharp features were serious. My organization doesn't trust easily. They'll test you, push you, try to figure out what you really want. And what do I tell them? The truth. You saved my life because you're a doctor, because you couldn't walk away, because you're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. A slight smile. I haven't decided which yet. Can it be both? Usually is. He shifted in his seat, wincing. The wound was bothering him. When we get there, you'll meet everyone. My inner circle. The people I trust or thought I trusted. Watch them carefully. Tell me what you see. I'm a doctor, not a detective. You're both. You read people. Bodies, faces, micro-expressions. You had to working trauma in Lagos. You had to know who was lying about how they got hurt, who'd come back for revenge, who'd pay their bill. He leaned closer. Use those skills now. Help me figure out who wants me dead. You really think I can spot a traitor just by looking? I think you're smart, observant, and completely outside my world. That gives you perspective we don't have. His dark eyes held hers. Plus, you have nothing to gain from lying to me. Everyone else? They all have agendas. You're the only person in my life right now who's here purely by accident. It was true. She had stumbled into this, had saved him on instinct, not calculation, had no agenda beyond survival. Maybe that made her the most dangerous person in his world, or the most valuable. The SUV turned off the main road, heading into Seoul's wealthy hills. The buildings got bigger, the walls got higher, the security got tighter. They passed through a gate that required 3 separate checks, and then they were pulling up to a compound that looked like it belonged in an architecture magazine. Modern, minimalist, breathtaking, and absolutely crawling with armed guards. Welcome to my home, Yi-sung said as the vehicle stopped. Try not to die here. I'd hate to waste all that good stitching. Despite everything, Amara almost laughed. You're terrible at pep talks. I know, but I'm excellent at keeping people alive. He opened his door, stepped out into the morning sun, extended his hand to help her out. Come on, doctor. Time to meet your new family. Amara took his hand and stepped into her new life. She just hoped she'd survive it long enough to figure out what the hell she'd gotten herself into. The compound was a fortress disguised as a luxury estate. Amara counted at least 15 guards visible from the driveway alone, more stationed at strategic points along the perimeter walls, others patrolling with dogs, all of them armed and alert. The main building rose 3 stories, all glass and steel and sharp angles that reflected the morning sun like a blade. D-Ho emerged from the lead vehicle, his stocky frame moving with surprising speed as he scanned the grounds. His small dark eyes missed nothing, checking sight lines, guard positions, possible threats. The cauliflower ear and broken nose gave him the look of a street brawler, but Amara was beginning to understand he was far more than that. This was a man who'd kept Yi-sung alive through God knew how many years of gang warfare. Clear, D-Ho announced. But boss, we need to talk about the security protocols. If Min-Hee has someone inside, then we find them. Yi-sung was already moving toward the entrance, his lean muscular frame stiff with pain he was trying to hide. Lock down all entrances. No one in or out without my direct authorization. And get Dr. Kim here, the real one, not the clinic owner. I want that wound properly examined. Already called him. He'll be here in an hour. D-Ho fell into step beside them, his tactical boots crunching on gravel. The others are assembling in the war room. Yoonjin's been calling non-stop. Says he needs to see you urgently. Yi-sung's jaw clenched at his cousin's name, that small scar through his eyebrow going white. I'm sure he does. Tell him to wait. They entered through massive doors into a foyer that took Amara's breath away. Marble floors, soaring ceilings, artwork that probably cost more than her entire education. But it was cold. Beautiful like Min-Hee was beautiful, perfect, and utterly without warmth. A woman in her 50s appeared from a side hallway, her gray hair pulled into a severe bun, her face lined but sharp. She took one look at Yi-sung's pale complexion and visible injury, and her expression cracked with maternal concern. What happened? She moved to him immediately, hands reaching to check his forehead for fever. You look terrible. Sit down before you collapse. I'm fine, Mrs. Kane. But Yi-sung's voice was gentler than Amara had heard it. Just need rest. And this is Amara Okafor. She'll be staying with us. She needs a room, clothes, whatever she requires. Mrs. Chen's sharp eyes swung to Amara, taking in the blood-stained scrubs visible beneath the oversized black t-shirt, the box braids falling loose, the exhaustion written across her heart-shaped face. This is the one who saved you. Yes, then she can have the East Wing guest suite. Mrs. Chen bowed slightly to Amara, a gesture of respect that seemed oddly formal. Welcome to our home, Doctor. Okafor, anything you need, just ask. I'm not a doctor, just a nurse. The lie came automatically now, a habit from 6 months of hiding her qualifications. She's a doctor, Yi-sung contradicted firmly. Lagos Medical School, trauma surgery. Don't let her modesty fool you. He turned to Amara. Mrs. Chen runs this household. Treat her with respect and she'll take care of you. Disrespect her and you'll wish Min-Hee had found you first. Mrs. Chen's stern face cracked into something almost resembling a smile. Come, Dr. Okafor. Let's get you cleaned up before you meet the others. They can be intimidating. I just performed field surgery on a mafia boss in an alley while his fiancée waited for him to die. I think I can handle intimidating. This time Mrs. Chen actually laughed. Oh, I like this one. She has spine. She gestured toward the stairs. This way. We'll find you something better than borrowed clothes. Amara followed, acutely aware of Yi-sung's dark eyes tracking her movement. She glanced back once, saw him leaning heavily against Diho, his pale skin nearly gray with exhaustion. He needed rest, needed proper medical care, needed to stop pretending he was fine when he was clearly running on fumes and willpower. But he was the Reaper. Showing weakness wasn't an option. The East Wing guest suite was larger than Amara's entire apartment in IT1. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked manicured gardens, a king-size bed with silk sheets, a bathroom with a tub that could double as a swimming pool, closets full of women's clothes in various sizes, emergency provisions, Mrs. Chen explained, for unexpected guests. Shower, Mrs. Chen ordered, pointing to the bathroom. I'll lay out clothes. When you're done, come downstairs. The boss will want you in the war room. What's a war room? Where they plan wars. Mrs. Chen's expression was grim. And right now, Dr. Okafor, you're in the middle of one whether you like it or not. Amara showered quickly, washing away dried blood and alley grime and the last remnants of her old invisible life. The hot water felt like a luxury she didn't deserve. She kept waiting for someone to burst through the door, to drag her out, to demand answers she didn't have. But no one came. She emerged to find clothes laid out, black jeans that actually fit her curvy frame, a simple white blouse, low-heeled boots, professional but practical. Mrs. Chen had good instincts. Amara pulled her box braids into a high bun, exposing the small mole above her lip and the clean line of her jaw. In the mirror, she looked different, harder. The 6 months in Seoul had already changed her, but this was something else. This was her standing in a mafia compound, wearing borrowed clothes, about to walk into a room full of dangerous men who might see her as a threat. She touched the BCG scar on her left shoulder, a ritual from childhood. Her mother had told her it was a mark of survival, that she'd been vaccinated against death itself. She hoped that was true. The war room was in the basement deliberately, Amara realized, so no windows meant no snipers, no surveillance. She followed Mrs. Chen down concrete stairs into a space that looked like something from a military command center. Maps on the walls, computer screens showing security feeds, a large table surrounded by men in dark suits, all of them turning to stare as she entered. Yi-sung sat at the head of the table, freshly showered and changed into a charcoal suit that somehow made him look both more dangerous and more refined. The wound was hidden now, but Amara could see the careful way he held himself, the slight stiffness in his movements. "Gentlemen," he said quietly, "this is Dr. Amara Okafor. She saved my life last night. She's under my protection. Anyone who touches her answers to me personally." Understood? A murmur of agreement, but Amara felt the weight of their stares, assessing, judging, calculating what threat she posed. Diho stood to Yi-sung's right, his weathered face impassive. To his left sat a younger man with designer glasses and a weak chin partially hidden by a carefully groomed beard. Yun-jin, she realized. DeCausin. He was watching her with light brown eyes that kept darting nervously, his fingers fidgeting with expensive cufflinks. "Yi-sung," Yun-jin said, his voice smoother than expected. "I'm glad you're safe. When Min-Hee called saying you were missing, I feared the worst." "Who did this?" "The Russians, the Yakuza." "Someone closer." Yi-sung's dark hooded eyes swept the room. "Someone who knew my schedule, my route." My security detail. Someone inside this organization. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. You think one of us Min-Jun started. I think someone sold me out. Whether directly or through carelessness, someone gave my enemies exactly what they needed to kill me. Yi-sung leaned forward, his sharp features hard. I survived because of luck and Dr. Okafor's skills, but luck runs out. So we're going to find the leak, and we're going to plug it, permanently. An older man with salt and pepper hair spoke up, his voice gravelly. Min-Hee was at the docks with you. She would have seen everything. She saw me get shot, then she drove away. Yi-sung's voice was flat. Left me to bleed out in an alley. I'd say that's fairly definitive proof of her involvement. Shocked silence. Then everyone started talking at once, protests, questions, demands for clarification. Amara watched Min-Jun carefully. His surprise seemed genuine, but there was something else beneath it. Relief? Satisfaction? It flickered too quickly to identify. That's insane, Min-Jun said loudly over the others. Min-Hee loves you. Her family's alliance with ours is worth billions. Why would she? Because I'm changing the business. Yi-sung's words cut through the noise like a knife. Going legitimate. Moving out of protection rackets and into real estate, tech investments, legitimate enterprises. Min-Hee's family makes their money from the old ways. They don't want reform. They want things to stay exactly as they are. So she tried to kill you? Min-Jun's laugh was nervous. That's extreme even for, is it? Yi-sung's dark eyes locked on his cousin. You've been pushing back on my reforms too, saying we're moving too fast. That we'll lose respect, lose territory, lose everything our fathers built. Min-Jun's face flushed. I was giving you my professional opinion. That doesn't make me a traitor. No, but your phone records might. D-Ho spoke up for the first time, his gravelly voice carrying absolute authority. 3 calls to Min-Hee in the week before the ambush. Want to explain those? The room went silent. Min-Jun's light brown eyes widened behind his designer glasses. She was planning a surprise party for Yi-sung's birthday next month. I was helping coordinate. My birthday is in January. It's August. Yi-sung's voice could have frozen fire. Try again, cousin. Amara watched Min-Jun's wiry frame tense like a cornered animal. His fingers stopped fidgeting with his cufflinks. His carefully groomed beard couldn't hide the way his jaw clenched. In Lagos, she'd learned to read patients who lied about their injuries, the micro-expressions, the tells, the tiny betrayals the body couldn't control. Min-Jun was lying, and everyone in the room knew it. I made a mistake, Min-Jun said finally, his smooth voice cracking slightly. I told her about your route. She said she wanted to surprise you at the docks with dinner. I thought it was romantic. I didn't know you gave her my security details. Yi-sung stood slowly, his lean frame unfolding with predatory grace despite the injury. You told her exactly where I'd be, what I'd be there, and how many men I'd have with me. And she used that information to set up an ambush that should have killed me. I didn't know. Min-Jun was on his feet now too, backing toward the wall. You have to believe me. I believe you're either a traitor or an idiot. I'm not sure which is worse. Yi-sung moved around the table and Amara saw it, the Reaper emerging, the man whose name made criminals cross themselves. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me everything you told Min-Hee, every conversation, every detail, every plan you might have discussed. And then you're going to help me figure out if she's working alone or if there are others. And if I refuse, then D-Ho will ask you. And his methods are much less pleasant than mine. D-Ho cracked his scarred knuckles meaningfully, his stocky frame shifting into a fighter's stance. The missing part of his right pinky finger seemed especially prominent. Min-Jun looked around the room, clearly hoping for support. Found none. These men were loyal to Yi-sung, had been for years. Family meant nothing compared to honor. Fina, fine. I'll tell you everything, but I swear I didn't know she was planning. A phone buzzed. Not Yi-sung's, not D-Ho's, Amara's. Every eye in the room turned to her. She pulled the cheap burner phone from her pocket with shaking hands, looked at the screen. Unknown number. A text message. Amara Okafor, Lagos Medical School, fled Nigeria after witnessing Senator Okonkwo's assassination. Currently wanted for questioning by Nigerian authorities. Return to Lagos within 48 hours or we release this information to Korean immigration. You'll be deported and arrested the moment you land. The phone nearly slipped from her suddenly nerveless fingers. Her amber eyes blurred with panic. They knew, whoever they knew everything. Her real name, her history, the exact reason she'd run. What is it? Yi-sung was beside her instantly, taking the phone from her trembling hands. He read the message and his sharp features went cold and hard. "They're threatening you. They're going to send me back to Lagos." Amara's voice came out small, broken. "I'll be arrested, put on trial as a witness. And the people who killed the senator, they'll kill me too. I'll be dead within a week of landing. No one's sending you anywhere." Yi Sung's voice carried absolute certainty. "You're under my protection. That means something. Your protection can't stop Korean immigration, can't stop Nigerian authorities." Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Not here, not in front of these men. I should have just kept walking, should have left you in that alley to die. Then I'd still be invisible, still be safe. You'd still be running." His pale hand gripped her shoulder, firm and grounding. "And eventually they would have found you anyway. Senator's daughter has a long memory. Long reach." He turned to Diho. "Get me everything you can find on Senator Okonkwo's family, who they're connected to, what resources they have in Korea. Boss, we've got our own problems. Amara's problem is my problem. She saved my life. That creates obligations." Yi Sung's dark eyes swept the room. "Anyone disagrees with that?" Silence, then grudging acceptance. Amara felt it shift these dangerous men, acknowledging that she was truly under the Reaper's protection now, that her survival mattered because their boss said it mattered. 48 hours, Yoon-jin said quietly from his position against the wall. His light brown eyes were calculating behind those designer glasses. "That's not much time. What can you possibly do in 48 hours? 48 hours is an eternity in our world." Yi Sung's smile was sharp as a knife. "Plenty of time to find out who's threatening her. Plenty of time to make them regret it." He looked at Amara, and something in his expression softened. "You trusted me in that alley. Trust me now. I'll handle this." "How?" "Let me worry about that. You just focus on staying alive and helping me figure out who the traitor is." He gestured to the table. "Sit, listen, watch. Use those medical instincts. Tell me who's lying, who's nervous, who's guilty." Amara sat in a chair that probably cost more than a month's rent at her old apartment, felt the weight of dangerous eyes on her, heard Ji Sung begin interrogating his cousin with clinical precision, each question a scalpel cutting away lies and excuses. She watched Yoon-jin squirm, watched Diho take notes with his scarred hands, watched the other men exchange glances, some sympathetic to Yoon-jin, others coldly calculating his value versus his betrayal. And she realized something that made her blood run cold. Yoon-jin wasn't the only traitor in this room. Someone else was lying. Someone else had been part of this. The body language was all wrong, too many people avoiding eye contact at the wrong moments, too much shifting weight when certain questions were asked. She'd seen it 1,000 times in Lagos. Patients who came in with accident injuries that were really domestic violence. Gang members lying about how they got shot. Corrupt officials pretending they didn't know who'd ordered a hit. She caught Ye Sung's eye. Mouthed 2 words, "Not alone." His expression didn't change, but something flickered in those dark hooded eyes. Understanding. Acknowledgement. The interrogation continued. Yoon-jin broke down, admitted to 3 separate conversations with Min-hee, each one more damning than the last. Admitted to accepting money, not much, just enough to be insulting. Admitted to thinking Yi Sung's reforms would ruin them all. But he didn't admit to knowing about the assassination attempt, and Amara believed him. Because the real threat wasn't sitting against the wall, fidgeting with cufflinks and sweating through an expensive shirt. The real threat was sitting 3 chairs down from her, looking calm and concerned and absolutely committed to the lie. She just had to figure out which one it was. And she had to do it before her 48 hours ran out. Before Korean immigration came for her. Before whoever was threatening her made good on their promise. Before the careful protection Yi Sung offered shattered like glass under the weight of betrayal from within. The war room felt smaller suddenly, the walls closer, the air thinner. Amara touched the BCG scar on her shoulder through her borrowed blouse and prayed her mother had been right about it being a mark of survival. Because she had a terrible feeling she was going to need all the luck she could get. The interrogation lasted 3 hours. By the end, Yoon-jin was a broken man, his designer glasses askew. His carefully groomed beard damp with sweat, his smooth voice reduced to hoarse whispers. He'd confessed to everything except actual knowledge of the murder attempt, and Yi Sung had extracted every detail with surgical precision. But Amara's attention kept drifting to the man 3 chairs down, Lee Min-woo, mid-40s, silver streaks in his hair, expensive watch, quiet demeanor. He was Yi Sung's financial advisor, handled the money laundering operations that were supposedly being phased out. He'd said maybe 10 words during the entire interrogation, his face a mask of professional concern. But twice, just twice when Yoon-jin mentioned specific dates, Min-ho's left eye had twitched, a tiny spasm barely visible, the kind of involuntary reaction you couldn't fake or control. In Lagos, she'd learned that the body betrayed liars in small ways. A patient claiming they'd fallen downstairs but flinching when you touched their left side instead of their right. A woman saying her husband never hit her while unconsciously covering old bruises. The micro-expressions were always there if you knew how to look. Min-ho was lying about something. She just didn't know what yet. Enough. Yi-sung finally held up a hand, cutting off Yoon-jin's latest protestation of innocence. His pale face was drawn with exhaustion, the wound clearly bothering him despite his attempts to hide it. D-ho, secure him in the south wing. Guard on the door, no communications, no visitors. We'll continue this tomorrow. You're imprisoning me? Yoon-jin's light brown eyes widened behind his smudged glasses. I'm your cousin, your blood. My blood tried to get me killed through stupidity if not malice. That requires consequences. Yi-sung's voice was flat, devoid of emotion. Be grateful I'm not doing what my father would have done. He'd have put you in the ground already. Two guards, younger men with hard eyes, grabbed Yoon-jin by the arms and hauled him out. His protests echoed down the hallway until a door slammed and cut them off. The remaining men shifted uncomfortably. This was family business, messy and uncomfortable. The kind of thing that made everyone question their own position, their own safety. The rest of you dismissed, Yi-sung said, but understand this: someone in my organization set me up to die. Until I find out who, no one is above suspicion. No one is safe. Choose your next moves carefully. The men filed out one by one. Min-ho was third to leave, moving with unhurried confidence. His expensive watch caught the light as he buttoned his suit jacket. He paused at the door, turned back. Boss, if you need me to review any financial records, trace money flows to Min-hee's family, I'm at your service. His voice was smooth, professional, helpful. I'll let you know. Yi-sung didn't look up from the documents he was studying. Min-ho left, the door closed. And finally it was just Yi-sung, Amara, and D-ho in the concrete war room. Him, Amara said immediately. Mino, he's lying about something. Both men's heads snapped toward her. Yi-sung's dark hooded eyes narrowed. How do you know? A tweets, left side. Happened twice when Yoon-jin mentioned dates August 3rd and August 5th. Both times Min-ho's eye twitched. She stood, moved to the whiteboard where someone had mapped out the timeline of the ambush. What happened on those dates? D-ho consulted his phone, his weathered face creasing with concentration. August 3rd, large cash withdrawal from one of our shadow accounts. 2 million won. August 5th, another withdrawal, same amount. Min-ho authorized both as operational expenses. 4 million won. Yi-sung's jaw clenched, that small scar through his eyebrow going white. Just under the threshold that requires my personal approval. Smart. He looked at Amara with something approaching respect. How did you catch that? I've known Min-ho for 15 years and I didn't see anything. You weren't looking for it. I was. She met his gaze steadily. In Lagos, I had to read patients who lied about their injuries, domestic violence victims protecting their abusers, gang members covering for their crew, politicians denying corruption while bleeding from assassination attempts. The last part came out bitter. You learn to see the tells, the micro-expressions. Can you teach me? The question was genuine, not mocking. Probably. But right now we need to figure out what Min-ho's hiding. Amara turned back to the timeline. 4 million won withdrawn in the week before your ambush. That's not coincidence. Could be payment for the hit team. D-ho's small dark eyes went hard. Russians charge about that much for a professional job. Yakuza too, depending on the target. But why would Min-ho betray me? Ye-sung stood slowly, wincing as the movement pulled at his wound. I've made him rich, given him power, respect. What does he gain from my death? Maybe it's not about gain. Maybe it's about survival. Amara's mind raced, connecting dots. You said you're reforming the business, going legitimate. What happens to the financial advisor who's been laundering money for 15 years when everything goes legal? Silence, heavy and damning. He becomes a liability, Yi-sung said quietly. Someone who knows where all the bodies are buried. Someone I might need to sacrifice to prosecutors to prove I'm serious about reform. His sharp features twisted with something that might have been regret. Min-ho's smart enough to see that coming. Smart enough to make a preemptive move. So he teams up with Min-hee. D-ho continued the logic. She wants you dead for business reasons. He wants you dead for survival reasons. They pool resources, use Yoon-jin as an unwitting accomplice, and they almost succeed. Yi Sung's hand unconsciously moved to his wound. Would have succeeded if Amara hadn't been in that alley. The weight of that truth settled over the room. Amara had saved his life by accident, by instinct, by choosing compassion over common sense. And that choice had unraveled a conspiracy that went deeper than anyone had suspected. "We need proof," Yi Sung said finally. "Yoon Jin's confession isn't enough. He's family. He'd say anything to save himself. But if we can prove Min Ho paid for the hit, if we can trace the money—" "That's my area," Di-ho interrupted. His stocky frame moved to one of the computers. "Give me 12 hours. I'll track everyone that left those accounts. Find out who received it, what they did with it, whether it connects to the ambush. Do it, but carefully. If Min Ho suspects we're investigating him, then he'll run or attack." Di-ho's gravelly voice carried certainty. "Which is why we keep him close. Let him think he's still trusted. Meanwhile, we build the case." Yi Sung nodded, then turned to Amara. "And you need rest. You've been up for what, 30 hours? 36. She was running on adrenaline and fear, her body screaming for sleep her mind wouldn't allow. "But I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're exhausted, scared, and way out of your depth." His words were blunt but not unkind. "Mrs. Chen will show you back to your room. Sleep, eat. Let me handle Min Ho and the threat from Nigeria. I'm not helpless. I never said you were, but you're also not bulletproof." He moved closer, and she caught that cedar scent again, mixing with the faint smell of medical antiseptic from his wound. "Let me protect you. That's what the blood debt means. I keep you safe. You help keep me alive. Symbiotic." "Symbiotic?" She almost laughed. "You make it sound like a business transaction." "In my world, everything's a business transaction, even loyalty." His dark eyes held hers. "But you're different. You saved me when you had nothing to gain and everything to lose. That's not business. That's something else entirely." "What is it then?" "I don't know yet." His smile was slight, genuine. "But I'm looking forward to finding out." Mrs. Chen appeared in the doorway as if summoned by telepathy. "Doctor, come. You need food and rest. The boss can manage without you for a few hours." Amara wanted to argue, wanted to stay in the war room and help unravel the conspiracy. But her legs were trembling, her vision blurring at the edges. She performed emergency surgery, run for her life, and spent 3 hours in a room full of dangerous men. Even her Lagos trauma ward stamina had limits. "Okay," she said finally, "but if anything happens, you'll be the first to know." Ji Sung's voice carried a promise. "Sleepy, Amara, you've earned it." She followed Mrs. Chen back upstairs, through hallways that seemed less intimidating now. The older woman was silent until they reached the East Wing guest suite. "He's never invoked blood debt before, Mrs. Chen said quietly, her sharp eyes studying Amara's face. "Not in all the years I've known him. You must be very special." "I'm not special. I'm just a doctor who couldn't walk away." "That makes you special." Mrs. Chen opened the door to reveal fresh clothes laid out on the bed, soft cotton pajamas, a robe. "He's a good man, you know, despite everything, despite what people say, the Reaper, the killer, the monster. Underneath, he's just a boy who lost his sister and never recovered." "His sister?" "Yoon Co, the door code. He told you about her?" Mrs. Chen's lined face showed surprise. "He never talks about her, not even to Di-ho. He mentioned her once, when he was barely conscious, said her name." Amara sat on the bed, exhaustion finally overwhelming her. "What happened to her?" Mrs. Chen was quiet for a long moment. "Then, she was killed 15 years ago. 17 years old, beautiful, kind. A rival gang targeted her to get to Yi Sung's father. They set a bomb in her car. She didn't die immediately, survived long enough to get to the hospital. Long enough for Ji Sung to hold her while she bled out." Her voice went soft. "That's when he became the Reaper. Before that, he was just a scared 19-year-old trying to live up to his father's legacy. After, he was something else entirely." The image hit Amara like a physical blow. A teenage boy holding his dying sister, watching her bleed out despite everything doctors tried. The helplessness, the rage, the transformation of grief into violence. She understood it. Had felt something similar when Senator Okonkwo died in her arms. When she'd run from Lagos knowing she'd failed to save him, failed to get justice, failed to be anything but a witness to corruption and murder. "He sees his sister when he looks at me," Amara said quietly. "In the alley when he was dying, he whispered her name, because I was trying to save him the way doctors tried to save her. Perhaps. Or perhaps he sees someone who actually succeeded where they failed." Mrs. Chen moved to the door. "Either way, you matter to him. That makes you important to all of us. Rest, Dr. Okafor. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges." The door closed and Amara was alone. She managed to shower again. The hot water felt like heaven and pulled on the soft pajamas. The bed was impossibly comfortable, the silk sheets cool against her skin. She should sleep. Needed to sleep. But her mind wouldn't shut down. 48 hours until Korean immigration came for her. Until she was deported back to Lagos and probable death. Yi-sung promised to handle it, but how? What could he possibly do against government authorities, against Nigerian political corruption, against the long reach of a senator's family seeking revenge? Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Another text. Tick-tock, Dr. Okafor. 46 hours remaining. Unless you'd like to negotiate? Her hands shook as she typed a response. Who are you? What do you want? The reply came instantly. We want you to testify. Tell the truth about what you saw in Senator Okonkwo's hospital room. Name the killer. Give us justice. Amara stared at the screen, her amber eyes wide. This wasn't the senator's family seeking revenge. This was someone else. Someone who wanted the truth exposed. If I testify, I'm dead. The people who killed him will kill me. Not if you're under protection. Not if you have resources. Come back to Lagos, tell your story, and we'll make sure you survive it. We have power, connections, money. Who is we? Friends of justice, enemies of corruption, people who want Nigeria to be better than it is. A pause then. Senator Okonkwo was trying to expose election fraud that went all the way to the presidency. You're the only witness who can corroborate his evidence. Without you, his killers walk free. With you, they face justice. Her heart hammered. Part of her, the part that had gone into medicine to help people, to make a difference, wanted desperately to believe this. To think she could actually get justice for the man who died in her arms. But the larger part, the part that had survived 6 months on the run, knew better. How do I know this isn't a trap? How do I know you won't just kill me the moment I land in Lagos? You don't. You have to trust us. I don't trust anyone anymore. Then let me give you a reason to trust. We know you're with Yi-sung Kang. We know about the blood debt. We know he's being betrayed from within his own organization. A pause. And we know who's really behind it all. Min-hee Park didn't act alone, neither did Lee Min-ho. They're both pawns in a much larger game. Amara's breath caught. What game? One that involves Nigerian politics, Korean organized crime, and international money laundering on a scale you can't imagine. Senator Okonkwo wasn't just investigating election fraud. He was tracking money from Nigerian oil deals being laundered through Korean criminal enterprises. Money that ended up funding the very people who rigged the election. Another pause. Yi-sung doesn't know it yet, but the ambush wasn't just about succession or reform. It was about shutting down his operation before he could go legitimate and expose the money trail. The room spun. Amara gripped the phone so hard her knuckles went pale against her rich dark brown skin. That's insane. That's reality. And you're caught in the middle of it because you witnessed the wrong murder at the wrong time. The text continued. We can protect you. We can protect Yi-sung. But you have to trust us. You have to come back to Lagos and testify. And if I refuse, then Korean immigration deports you in 46 hours, and you face murder charges the moment you land. We won't be able to help you then. The people who killed Okonkwo will make sure you never see trial. Amara's mind raced. This was too big, too complicated, too dangerous. She needed help. Needed Ye-sung's cold calculation, Deho's strategic thinking. She grabbed a robe and headed for the door. The hallway was dark, most of the compound asleep, but light showed under the door to what Mrs. Chen had called Yi-sung's study. Amara knocked quietly. Come in. His voice was tired but alert. She opened the door to find him at a desk, shirtless, Deho carefully cleaning and redressing his wound. The dragon tattoo wrapped around his ribcage seemed to move in the lamplight, scales shifting with each breath. You should be sleeping, Yi-sung said, but concern flickered in his dark hooded eyes when he saw her expression. What happened? I got another text. From the people threatening me. Only, she moved closer, held out her phone. I don't think they're who I thought they were. He read the messages, his sharp features going very still. When he looked up, something dangerous glinted in those dark eyes. Their intelligence, he said quietly. Nigerian, probably allied with Korean NIS. This isn't about deportation. This is a recruitment attempt. Recruitment? They want to use you. Your testimony gives them evidence to build a case against whoever killed Okonkwo. Your connection to me gives them access to my financial records, my organization, my knowledge of money laundering networks. His jaw clenched. They're offering protection, but what they really want is to flip you into an informant. The word hit like a slap. Informant, snitch. Traitor. I would never... I know. His voice was gentle despite the subject matter. But they don't care what you would or wouldn't do. They care about pressure points. And they found yours: threaten deportation, offer protection, dangle justice for a dead senator. Classic intelligence play. So what do? You tell them to go to hell. Yi Sung stood slowly, Di-ho stepping back with the medical supplies. And you let me handle this my way, which is? His smile was sharp as a blade. I'm going to make them an offer they can't refuse. Morning came too quickly. Amara woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of coffee drifting from somewhere in the compound. For a moment, just one blissful moment, she forgot where she was. Forgot the blood debt, the threats, the conspiracy unraveling around her. Then her phone buzzed on the nightstand and reality crashed back. 40 hours remaining. Have you reconsidered our offer? She deleted the message without responding. Ye Sung had told her to let him handle it, and despite every instinct screaming that trusting a mafia boss was insane, she found herself believing him. He'd kept his word so far, protected her when he could have abandoned her, invoked blood debt when he could have let Min-Hee's people eliminate a witness. Maybe trust was earned through actions, not words. Maybe survival meant taking calculated risks. Or maybe she was just too exhausted to keep running alone. Mrs. Chen knocked and entered with a tray: coffee, rice, grilled fish, kimchi. Real food, not the instant noodles and convenience store meals Amara had survived on for 6 months. Eat. Boss wants you in the war room in 1 hour. Something about the Nigerian situation. Did he sleep at all? No, he and Di-ho worked through the night. Mrs. Chen's lined face was disapproving. Stubborn man. Acts like getting shot is just an inconvenience. He'll work himself to death if someone doesn't stop him. I'm his doctor, not his mother. You're something to him. I haven't figured out what yet. Mrs. Chen set the tray down. But he listens when you talk. That's rare. Use it wisely. After she left, Amara ate mechanically, her mind already racing ahead. What had Yi Sung discovered in the night? What offer could he possibly make to intelligence agencies that wanted her testimony? And more importantly, could she trust whatever deal he'd brokered? The clothes Mrs. Chen had laid out were professional but comfortable: dark jeans, a fitted blazer, low boots, armor for whatever was coming. Amara pulled her box braids into a sleek bun, noting how the small mole above her lip stood out against her rich dark brown skin. In Lagos, she'd been one of thousands of doctors. Here, she was unforgettable. Visible, vulnerable. The war room was crowded when she arrived. Yi Sung stood at the head of the table in a fresh black suit, his pale skin still too gray but his dark hooded eyes sharp and focused. Di-ho was beside him, weathered face impassive. And across the table sat 2 people Amara didn't recognize: a Korean woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and a Nigerian man in his 40s wearing an expensive suit. Dr. Okafor. The Nigerian man stood, extended his hand. His accent was pure Lagos elite, British educated, Oxford probably. I'm Ambassador Chukwuma, cultural attaché at the Nigerian embassy. This is Director Park from Korean National Intelligence Service. Amara's stomach dropped. She shook his hand automatically, felt her palm go clammy against his. You're the ones who've been texting me. We needed to get your attention. Director Park's voice was clipped, efficient. Please sit. We have much to discuss. Amara looked at Yi Sung, found him watching her with those calculating eyes. He gave the slightest nod, permission, or maybe just acknowledgement that the choice was hers. She sat. Let me be direct, Ambassador Chukwuma began. Senator Okonkwo was investigating corruption that reaches the highest levels of Nigerian government. His evidence, financial records, witness statements, documentation of election fraud could bring down the current administration. But without your testimony confirming what you saw in that hospital room, his work dies with him. I was adjusting his IV when someone shot him. That's what I saw. Not election fraud, not financial crimes. Amara's voice was steady despite her racing heart. I'm a witness to murder, not corruption. You're both. Director Park pulled out a tablet, swiped through images. The man who shot Senator Okonkwo was Major Ademi, Nigerian military intelligence. He was supposed to make it look like gang violence, wrong place, wrong time. But you saw his face, recognized him from the senator's security detail. That's when it became a professional assassination, not random violence. The image on the tablet showed the man from that night: hospital scrubs, silenced pistol, cold eyes that had locked with hers for one terrible moment before she ran. Major Ademi. She hadn't known his name until now. He was in the senator's security? Her voice came out hoarse. For 6 months before the assassination, gathering intelligence, waiting for the right moment. Ambassador Chukwuma leaned forward. Your testimony confirms it was an inside job. That makes the current administration complicit. That changes everything and gets me killed." Amara's hands clenched in her lap. "The moment I testify, whoever ordered the hit will eliminate me. You know that. Which is why we're offering protection, relocation, new identity, financial support." Director Park's tone was matter-of-fact. "In exchange, you testify before an international tribunal. Nigerian corruption is destabilizing the entire region. Your evidence could stop that." It sounded reasonable, noble even. Justice for Senator Okonkwo, accountability for corruption, a chance to stop running. But Amara had learned in Lagos that reasonable offers often hid terrible traps. "What's the catch?" she asked quietly. Ambassador Chukwuma and Director Park exchanged glances. Then, "We need access to Mr. Kang's financial records. His organization has been laundering money for Nigerian officials for years." "No." Ye Sung's voice cut like a blade. "That wasn't part of our agreement. Our agreement was that we'd hear your counteroffer." Director Park replied coolly. "We're listening." Ye Sung moved around the table with predatory grace, despite the wound that must still be causing pain. His lean frame was taut with barely controlled anger. "You want Dr. Okafor's testimony about the assassination. Fine. I'll deliver her safely to Lagos, provide private security during the trial, and extract her the moment it's over. But you leave my organization out of it. That's not acceptable. Then deport her. Arrest her. Do whatever you think you can do." His dark eyes were cold as winter. "But understand this, she's under my protection. The moment Korean immigration tries to touch her, I invoke every favor I'm owed, call in every debt, activate every connection I have in your government." He leaned close to Director Park. "And Director, you know exactly how deep those connections run." The room went silent. Director Park's face remained impassive, but Amara saw the calculation behind her eyes. Weighing risks, assessing threats, deciding if Yi-Sung Kang was bluffing. He wasn't. She could tell by the absolute certainty in his posture, the cold confidence in his voice. This was a man who'd built an empire on knowing exactly how much power he had and when to use it. "You're protecting a foreign national who witnessed a political assassination," Director Park said finally. "That makes you complicit in international crimes. I'm protecting someone who saved my life. That makes me honorable." Yi-Sung's smile was sharp. "Your law is my honor code. We can debate which matters more, or you can accept my offer. Dr. Okafor testifies about what she saw, nothing more, nothing less. In exchange, I guarantee her safety and extract her after the trial. You get your witness. She gets justice. Everyone wins. Except we don't get access to your financial records." "Correct. Those are mine, not negotiable." Ambassador Chukwuma cleared his throat. "Mr. Kang, with respect, the money laundering network you've operated has funded corruption across West Africa. We need that information to build our case, then build it without me." Yi-Sung straightened. "I'm offering you a witness to murder. A woman who can identify Major Ademi, confirm the timeline, corroborate Senator Okonkwo's fears about internal betrayal. That's valuable. My financial records? Those would just implicate dozens of officials who'll lawyer up and drag out proceedings for years. You want quick justice or protracted legal warfare?" The logic was sound, brutal but sound. Amara watched the two officials process it, watched them realize that Ye Sung was right. Her testimony alone could trigger immediate action. Financial records would just create complications. "And if we agree," Director Park said slowly, "how do we know you'll actually deliver her? That this isn't just a delaying tactic while you help her disappear? Because I give you my word." Yi Sung's dark hooded eyes held absolute conviction. "And in my world, that's worth more than any contract you could draw up. I said I'd protect her. That includes getting her to Lagos safely and making sure she survives to testify." "Your word." Ambassador Chukwuma's tone was skeptical. "The word of a criminal. The word of someone who's never broken blood debt in 15 years of operation. Ask around, Ambassador. Ask your intelligence contacts. Ask anyone who's dealt with me." Yi Sung's voice carried quiet pride. "I'm many things. A liar isn't one of them." Silence stretched. Amara's heart hammered so hard she was certain everyone could hear it. This was insane. Letting a mafia boss negotiate with intelligence agencies over her future. Trusting him to keep promises to people who wanted to use her as a pawn in international politics. But what choice did she have? Run again? Go back to being invisible? Hope the threats just disappeared? At least this way she'd be doing something meaningful. Getting justice for Senator Okonkwo. Standing up to the corruption that had driven her from her home. Maybe even making a difference. And if it all went wrong, if she testified and got killed anyway, at least she'd have tried. Director Park consulted her tablet, typed rapidly, received a response. I need to clear this with my superiors. Ambassador? Sama, this is above our authority. Ambassador Chukwuma stood, buttoning his expensive suit jacket. We'll have an answer within 12 hours, Dr. Okafor. I hope you understand what you're risking by trusting Mr. Kang over official protection. I understand I'm risking either way. Amara's voice was steady. At least this way I'm betting on someone who's already proven he'll protect me. The officials left, escorted out by D-Ho and 2 guards. The moment the door closed, Amara's composure cracked. That was insane, she said, standing on shaking legs. You just negotiated my testimony like it was a business deal. It is a business deal. You're the commodity. Justice is the product. Everyone gets what they want. Yi-sung moved to the coffee service on the side table, poured 2 cups with steady hands. Except you're not just a commodity. You're someone I'm responsible for, someone I owe. The blood debt. More than that. He handed her a cup, their fingers brushing. His pale skin was warmer now, healing. You could have said no, could have told them you'd take their protection, their relocation, their promises. But you didn't. You chose to trust me instead. I'm not sure trust is the right word. Maybe desperation. Maybe both. His slight smile was genuine. Either way, thank you for not running, for not selling me out to save yourself. They wanted your financial records to build cases against Nigerian officials. That would have hurt you. It would have destroyed me. Exposed every connection, every operation, every person who's ever worked with me. His dark eyes held hers. You realize that? Realize they were using your testimony as leverage to dismantle my organization, and you said nothing. Had she realized that? Maybe. Some part of her medical training that read subtext, that understood negotiations were really about power and control. Or maybe she just instinctively protected the man who'd protected her. So what happens now? She asked. Now we wait for their answer. Meanwhile, I have other problems to solve. He gestured to the table where D-Ho had returned, carrying a laptop. Mino, remember him? The financial advisor. The one who's lying. D-Ho tracked the money from those shadow accounts. 4 million won went to a shell company registered in Busan. That company paid for the hit team at the dock, 6 Russians, professional contractors. Yi-sung's jaw clenched. Min-Ho arranged the payment. Probably thought he'd covered his tracks well enough that no one would notice. But you noticed. D-Ho noticed. He's better with financial forensics than I am. Ji-sung pulled up documents on the laptop. Here's where it gets interesting. The shell company? It's owned by a holding corporation, and that corporation has ties to Min-hee's family business. Amara's breath caught. So Min-Ho and Min-hee were definitely working together. Looks like it, but there's more. D-Ho's gravelly voice cut in. The holding corporation received a payment of 20 million won 3 days before the ambush. From Nigeria. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Nigeria, Amara repeated numbly. Are you saying? I'm saying Senator Okonkwo's assassination and my ambush might be connected. Yi-sung's dark hooded eyes were cold, calculating. Someone in Nigeria paid money that ended up funding my would-be killers. Someone who wanted both the senator dead and my operation shut down. The money laundering network. The pieces clicked together in Amara's mind with horrible clarity. You said you were going legitimate. That would have exposed the financial trails. Would have shown where Nigerian oil money was being cleaned through Korean criminal enterprises. And would have implicated the people who rigged Nigeria's election. Jae-sung nodded slowly. Senator Okonkwo was tracking that money from the Nigerian side. I was unknowingly facilitating it from the Korean side. When he started investigating and I started reforming, someone decided to eliminate both problems at once. Amara's legs went weak. She sank into a chair. That's why they're so desperate for me to testify. Not just about the murder, about the connections, about you. Which is why I can't give them my financial records. The moment I do, I become expendable. They'll use the information to build their case, then eliminate me as a witness who knows too much. His voice was grim. Classic intelligence play. Use criminals against other criminals, then clean up the loose ends. So we're both targets. Both witnesses to the same corruption, just from different angles. The weight of it settled over Amara like a physical thing. They'll kill us both eventually, won't they? Even if I testify. Even if you cooperate. We know too much. Probably. Yi-sung's bluntness was almost refreshing. Unless we move first. Move how? By finding out who paid that 20 million won. By exposing them before they can expose us. By turning the tables. He closed the laptop, fixed her with those intense dark eyes. You're going to testify in Lagos, but not for them, for us. You're going to name Major Ademi, yes. But you're also going to ask very specific questions about where he got his funding, about connections between Nigerian officials and Korean criminal organizations, about money laundering networks. They'll never let me ask those questions. They won't have a choice, because I'll be sitting in that courtroom with documentation, evidence, proof that the corruption goes higher than they want to admit. His smile was sharp as a blade. We're going to burn it all down, Amara. The officials who killed the senator, the organization that's been using my business to launder their money, everyone who thought they could use us and throw us away. It was audacious, dangerous, probably suicidal. It was also the only move they had. Okay, Amara said quietly, but I have conditions. Name them. First, you see a real doctor about that wound. It's been almost 2 days and you're still gray. I want proper antibiotics, proper care before you collapse and ruin everything. Done. Second, you tell me everything. No more secrets, no more half-truths. If we're doing this together, if I'm risking my life on your plan, I need to know what I'm walking into. Agreed. He extended his hand across the table. Partners? She looked at that pale, elegant hand, looked at the man attached to it, the Reaper, the Mafia boss, the person who'd somehow become her unlikely ally in the span of 2 days. She thought about Senator Okonkwo dying in her arms, about 6 months of running, about how tired she was of being a victim. Time to be something else, something dangerous. She took his hand. Partners. His grip was firm, warm, alive. And as their eyes met across the table, Amara realized something that both terrified and thrilled her. She trusted him, not because he was good or safe or noble, but because he was honest about what he was, because he'd kept every promise so far, because when everyone else had seen her as a commodity or a threat or a pawn, he'd seen her as someone worth protecting. The blood debt was supposed to bind them through obligation, but this partnership forged in survival and desperation and mutual necessity, this was something else entirely. Now what? She asked. Now we prepare for war. Yi Sung's smile was cold. Because when we walk into that Lagos courtroom, we're not just testifying about murder. We're declaring war on everyone who's been using us. And in war, you need allies. Do we have allies? Not yet. But we will. He stood, moved toward the door. Come on, there's someone you need to meet. Someone who's been wanting to meet you since the moment you saved my life. Who? His expression flickered with something unreadable. Pain, maybe, or memory. Someone who knows what it's like to survive when everyone thinks you're dead. Someone who will understand exactly what we're up against. He opened the door, and standing in the hallway was a woman Amara had never seen before. Tall, black hair with one side shaved, burn scars visible on her neck and collarbone, dark eyes identical to Yi Sung's, hooded, intense, calculating. Amara's breath caught as recognition hit. The woman smiled, and it was sharp as a knife. Hello, Dr. Okafor. I'm Min-Jun Kang, Yi Sung's dead sister. She tilted her head. Surprise. Amara's medical training kicked in, automatically cataloging injuries, assessing scars, reading body language. The woman before her was approximately 32 years old, 5'6", with a lean, athletic build that spoke of survival rather than vanity. The burn scars wrapped around her left side, disappearing under her black tactical clothing. Old scars, at least a decade healed. The kind you got from an explosion, from fire, from something catastrophic. The kind you got from a car bomb that was supposed to kill you 15 years ago. You're supposed to be dead, Amara said quietly. Her amber eyes locked on Yoon-seo's face, so similar to Yi Sung's sharp features, but harder somehow, more damaged. I was dead. For about 90 seconds in the emergency room. Yoon-seo's voice carried an edge that matched her appearance. Then some very talented surgeons brought me back. Spent 6 months in a coma, another year learning to walk again. By then, letting everyone think I was dead seemed smarter than coming back to life. Yi Sung moved to stand beside his sister, and Amara saw it then. The resemblance was striking when they stood together. Same dark hooded eyes, same sharp bone structure, same predatory stillness. But where Yi Sung had learned to mask his violence with calculated charm, Yoon-seo wore hers openly. You let him think you were dead, Amara said, looking at Yi Sung. For 15 years, you let your brother grieve you. It was necessary. Yoon-seo's tone was matter-of-fact. The people who tried to kill me were inside our father's organization. If I came back, they'd just try again. But if I stayed dead, I could hunt them from the shadows, find out who ordered the hit, make them pay. And did you? The question came out sharper than Amara intended. Make them pay? Eventually. Took 12 years, but I found them all. Yoon-seo's smile was cold. The last one died 3 years ago, slowly, painfully, begging for mercy he didn't deserve. The casual brutality of those words should have terrified Amara, should have sent her running from this compound, from these people, from this world of calculated violence. But she'd spent 6 months learning that survival sometimes required hardness. That mercy was a luxury you couldn't always afford. Why reveal yourself now? Amara asked. After 15 years, why come back? Because my brother's in danger. Yoon-seo moved closer, and Amara caught the scent of gunpowder and something medicinal, antibiotics, maybe, for injuries that never quite healed right. The people trying to kill him now are connected to the ones who tried to kill me. Same corruption network, same money trail, just evolved over 15 years. When I heard about the ambush, I knew it was time to stop hiding. Yi-sung's expression was carefully neutral, but Amara saw the tension in his lean frame, the way his pale hands clenched into fists. You could have contacted me years ago, could have let me know you were alive, and put you in danger, make you a target for knowing I survived? Yoon-seo shook her head. No. Better you thought I was dead. Better you became the Reaper, built your reputation on grief and rage. That made you strong. Made you untouchable. Made me ruthless. The words came out hollow. Made me into someone who kills without hesitation, who trusts no one, who... He stopped, jaw clenching. Who survives? Yoon-seo's voice softened slightly. That's all I wanted, Yi-sung, for you to survive. Everything else was secondary. The siblings stared at each other, 15 years of grief and anger and betrayed trust crackling between them like electricity. Amara felt like an intruder on something deeply personal, deeply painful. But Di-ho cleared his throat from the doorway, his weathered face showing no surprise at Yoon-seo's appearance. We have a situation. Min-ho just tried to leave the compound. The moment shattered. Yi-sung's calculating mask slammed back into place. Tried. Guards stopped him at the east gate. Said he had urgent business in Busan. When they asked for authorization, he attacked. Di-ho's small dark eyes were hard. He's contained now. Medical bay. Sedated. But boss, he was carrying this. He held up a phone, expensive, encrypted. The screen showed a text message thread. Subject is compromised. Eliminate immediately. No sorbibors. The timestamp was from 10 minutes ago. Who sent it? Yi-sung was already moving, his wound clearly bothering him but adrenaline overriding the pain. Unknown number. Encrypted. But Di-ho pulled up another screen. I traced the routing. Message originated from Nigerian embassy in Seoul. Amara's blood went cold. Ambassador Chukwuma. The man who'd sat across from her an hour ago promising protection and justice. The man who'd negotiated her testimony. The man who'd just ordered her death. They played us, she whispered. The whole meeting was a setup. They never intended to honor any deal. No, they intended to honor it until you became more useful dead than alive. Yoon-seo's voice carried grim certainty. Once they realized you could connect Nigerian corruption to Korean money laundering to international intelligence operations, you became a liability. Easier to eliminate you and claim it was a tragic accident. But how did they know about Amara? Stopped, realization hitting like cold water. No, he was feeding them information. That's why he tried to leave. Someone warned him we'd trace the money. Smart. Yoon-seo studied Amara with those dark eyes so like her brother's. You pick up patterns quickly. Good survival skill. Lagos trauma ward. You learn fast or you die. Amara's mind was already racing ahead. So Min-ho was working with Min-hee but also with Nigerian intelligence. Triple agent? Or quadruple, depending on who he thought would pay best. Ji-sung had reached the laptop, was pulling up more financial records. Di-ho, get me everything on Min-ho's communications for the past month. Every call, every text, every email. Already working on it. Di-ho's scarred fingers flew over the keyboard. But boss, this goes deeper. Look at this. Another screen. More financial data. A payment of 50 million won transferred from a Nigerian government account to a Korean shell corporation, the same one that had funded the ambush at the docks. But this payment was dated yesterday, after the ambush, after Yi-sung survived. They're paying for a second attempt, Amara said quietly. Min-ho was supposed to kill us both. That's why he had access to the compound, why he could move freely. He was the inside man for the next hit. Correct. Yoon-seo moved to the table, pulled up security footage on another screen. Watch this. From last night, second floor, east wing corridor. The grainy footage showed Min-ho standing outside a door, Amara's door, the guest suite where she'd slept. He stood there for 3 full minutes, hand on the doorknob, before finally walking away. He was deciding whether to kill you then or wait for orders, Yunesio explained, her voice clinical. Probably waiting to see if the first threat, the text about deportation, would make you cooperate. When you chose Yi Sung's protection over their deal, you signed your own death warrant. Amara's hands were shaking. She'd been 30 feet from an assassin last night, had slept peacefully while someone debated murdering her in her bed. The violation of it, the casual brutality, made her stomach turn. I want to talk to him, she said suddenly. Mino, I want to hear him explain why. Bad idea, Diho grunted. He's dangerous, he's sedated and restrained. And I'm a doctor. I know how to read people when they're vulnerable. Amara's voice was steel. I want to understand, need to understand how someone justifies this. Ji Sung studied her for a long moment, those dark hooded eyes assessing, then nodded. Okay, but I'm coming with you, and so is Yunseo. Back up, his sister said simply, in case he's more dangerous than we think. They moved through the compound as a unit. Yi Sung, Yunseo, Diho, and Amara. Guards snapped to attention as they passed, their eyes widening when they saw Yunseo. Clearly some of them recognized her, remembered the girl who'd died 15 years ago. Whispers followed in their wake. The medical bay was a fully equipped clinic, better than the illegal operation Amara had worked at in Itwan. Min-Ho lay on a hospital bed, wrists and ankles restrained with medical cuffs. His expensive suit was torn from the fight with the guards. His silver-streaked hair was disheveled, but his eyes, when they opened and focused on the group, were sharp and calculating. So, he said quietly, his smooth voice rough from sedation. You figured it out, most of it. Yi Sung pulled up a chair, sat with his lean frame perfectly still. Fill in the gaps. Who approached you first, Min-He or the Nigerians? Min-He, 6 months ago. Said you were going to destroy the business with your reforms. Said we needed to act before you dismantled everything our fathers built. Min-Ho's laugh was bitter. I believed her. Thought she actually cared about legacy, about honor. Didn't realize she was just positioning herself to take over. And the Nigerians? Came later, 3 months ago. Said they knew about the money laundering. Had evidence that could send me to prison for 20 years, unless I helped them. His eyes found Amara. They wanted information on you, Dr. Okafor. Were very interested when you showed up and saved Yi Sung's life. Suddenly you became valuable. Valuable how? You're the witness who can connect Senator Okonkwo's assassination to Korean money laundering to Nigerian corruption. You're the linchpin that makes their entire case work. Min-Ho's expression was almost sympathetic. They were going to use you to expose the network, then eliminate you as someone who knew too much. Clean, efficient, impossible to trace back to them, except I chose Yi Sung's protection over theirs, which made you unpredictable, dangerous. So the plan changed. Eliminate you both, blame it on Min-He's coup attempt, use the chaos to seize control of the organization and the financial records. He paused. Smart play, actually. Would have worked if Yi Sung hadn't survived the first attempt, and if I hadn't tracked the money, Diho added grimly. That too. Min-Ho looked at Yi Sung with something that might have been regret. For what it's worth, boss, I didn't want it to go this way. I respected you, still do, but I have a family, grandchildren. The Nigerians threatened them, said if I didn't cooperate they'd be killed, so I made a choice. You chose to betray me to save your family. Yi Sung's voice was flat, devoid of emotion. I understand that, would probably do the same. But understanding doesn't mean forgiveness. I know. I'm dead either way. You kill me for betrayal or they kill me for failure. Min-Ho closed his eyes. At least tell me my family will be safe, that you won't punish them for my mistakes. Silence, heavy and damning. Then Yi Sung spoke, his words careful and measured. Your family has done nothing wrong. They won't be touched. You have my word. Min-Ho's eyes opened, glistening with tears. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You're going to help us stop this. Going to give us everything: names, accounts, connections, evidence. Everything you gave the Nigerians, you're going to give us. And then you're going to disappear. New identity, new life, somewhere they'll never find you. Yi Sung leaned forward. That's the deal. Cooperation for survival. Take it or I let them have you. Why would you help me, after everything I've done? Because you were coerced. Because you're not the real enemy, just a pawn being used by people more powerful and more corrupt. His dark eyes held absolute conviction. And because I'm not my father, I don't kill people for making impossible choices under impossible pressure. Amara watched this exchange with something like awe. The Reaper, the man whose name made criminals cross themselves, was offering mercy to someone who'd tried to kill him. offering protection in exchange for cooperation. It was strategic, yes, but it was also human. I'll tell you everything, Min-Ho said finally. Every conversation, every payment, every connection I know about. But you need to understand this goes higher than you think. The Nigerian corruption isn't just government officials. It's international. Oil companies, weapons manufacturers, intelligence agencies from multiple countries. You're not fighting a conspiracy. You're fighting an empire. Then we burn the empire. Yoon Seo spoke for the first time since entering the medical bay, her voice cold and certain. From the inside out, starting with the people who tried to kill my brother, who tried to kill Dr. Okafor, who think they can use people and throw them away without consequences. She looked at Amara, and something passed between them, recognition maybe, understanding. They were both survivors. Both people who'd been left for dead and crawled back to life through sheer will. Both people who were done running. How? Amara asked. How do we fight an empire? By exposing it. By making them fight each other. Yi-sung stood, his pale face showing exhaustion but his eyes burning with determination. Min-Ho gives us the evidence. You testify in Lagos but not the way they expect. You don't just identify Major Ademi. You name everyone. Every connection, every payment, every corruption link we can prove. They'll kill me the moment I start talking. Not if I'm there. Not if Yoon Seo's there. Not if we make it public enough that killing you creates more problems than letting you live. His slight smile was sharp. We're going to turn their own strategy against them. Use their corruption as a weapon. Make them too busy defending themselves to attack us. It was audacious, dangerous, probably suicidal. It was also the only real move they had. Okay, Amara said. But I have one more condition. Name it. We protect Min-Ho's family. Get them out before this goes public. I won't be responsible for children dying because their grandfather made a bad choice. Ji-sung looked at her for a long moment, something like admiration flickering in his dark eyes. Done. Di-ho, arrange extraction for Min-Ho's family. Tonight, before word spreads that we've flipped him. Already on it, boss. Di-ho's weathered face showed approval. The doctor's got good instincts. Protecting families, building loyalty, that's how you create real power. That's how you stay human, Amara corrected quietly. In a world that wants to turn you into a monster, that's how you stay human. Yoon Seo laughed a sharp, bitter sound. Welcome to our world, Dr. Okafor. Where staying human is the hardest job of all. They left Min-Ho in the medical bay, guarded and sedated. Returned to the war room where Di-ho began the work of extracting every piece of information from the financial advisor's encrypted files. Evidence piled up, bank transfers, communications, proof of corruption that reached across continents. Amara watched the data accumulate, her medical mind cataloging and organizing. Senator Okonkwo had been right, the corruption was massive, systemic, reaching the highest levels of Nigerian government. And Yi-sung's organization had been the Korean linchpin, unknowingly laundering money that funded everything from rigged elections to political assassinations. No wonder they wanted both of them dead. We leave for Lagos tomorrow, Yi-sung said quietly, standing beside her. His cedar scent was mixed with coffee and exhaustion. Tribunals in 3 days. That gives us time to coordinate with media, ensure the testimony goes public immediately. Too public to suppress. And if they kill us anyway, then we make sure the evidence survives us. Dead man's switch, everything gets released automatically if we don't check in every 12 hours. His pale hand found hers, squeezed gently. We're going to survive this, Amara. Both of us. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust in his cold calculations and strategic planning. But she'd learned in Lagos that survival was never guaranteed. That sometimes the universe just decided it was your time. Your sister, Amara said suddenly. She survived being dead for 15 years. Maybe that's our advantage. They think we're predictable, controllable, but we're not. We're survivors. Exactly. His dark eyes held hers. That's why we're partners. Because we both refuse to stay down when the world tries to bury us. Outside, Seoul's night was falling. Neon lights flickered to life. The city breathed and pulsed with life that had nothing to do with conspiracies or corruption or blood debts. Somewhere out there, people were living normal lives, going to dinner, watching movies, falling in love. Amara wondered if she'd ever have that again. If survival meant anything beyond the next crisis, the next threat, the next impossible choice. But then Yi-sung's hand tightened on hers, and she realized this was survival too. This partnership forged in blood and desperation. This strange alliance with a mafia boss and his supposedly dead sister. Maybe normal was overrated anyway. Lagos tomorrow, she said quietly. Then we burn it all down. Then we burn it all down, he agreed. And in that moment, Amara Okafor, trauma surgeon, fugitive, witness, survivor, committed fully to the most dangerous decision of her life. She was going to war, and she was going to win, or die trying. The private jet left Seoul at dawn, cutting through clouds toward Lagos like a bullet seeking its target. Amara sat by the window, watching Korea disappear behind them, her reflection ghost-like in the glass. She barely recognized herself. The woman staring back had harder eyes than the doctor who'd fled Nigeria 6 months ago. Survival had carved away softness, left only steel underneath. Yi-sung sat across from her, reviewing documents on his tablet. His sharp features were focused, calculating. The wound had healed enough that he moved without visible pain, though Amara knew it still bothered him. Stubborn man pushing through discomfort because stopping wasn't an option. Yoon CEO occupied the seat behind them, weapons laid out on the table like a surgeon's instruments. She was checking each one methodically, handguns, knives, items Amara couldn't even identify. Preparing for war with the same calm efficiency Amara used when setting up an operating theater. Nervous? Yi-sung asked without looking up. Terrified, Amara admitted. But that's probably healthy. Fear keeps you alert, smart. He finally met her amber eyes. The moment you stop being afraid is the moment you make fatal mistakes. Fear is survival instinct. Listen to it. What are you afraid of? The question surprised her as much as him. He considered it, his dark hooded eyes distant. Failing. Not you, I'll get you through this. But failing to finish what we started. Leaving the corruption intact because I wasn't smart enough or ruthless enough to burn it all down. That's not fear of failure. That's fear of incomplete victory. Yoon CEO's voice carried from behind them. Our father taught us that. Win completely or don't fight at all. Half measures just create future enemies. Your father sounds like a hard man. He was. Cold, calculating, absolutely committed to power. Yi-sung's expression flickered with old pain. But he protected his family. When Yoon CEO was attacked, when the bomb went off, his rage was biblical. He spent 3 years hunting the people responsible. Destroyed entire organizations. Made them wish they'd never heard our name, and you became him. Amara understood it now, the transformation of grief into violence, the channeling of helplessness into absolute control. You became the Reaper because watching your sister die taught you that mercy was weakness. Except she didn't die. His smile was slight, bitter. Which means I became a monster for nothing. Not nothing, Yoon CEO interjected. You became powerful, feared, untouchable. That's what kept you alive when dozens of others failed. That's what's going to keep us alive in Lagos. The jet hit turbulence, shaking them slightly. Outside, the world was nothing but sky and clouds and the impossible distance between where they'd been and where they were going. Amara's phone buzzed. She'd kept the burner active deliberately, letting the Nigerian intelligence continue their threats. Now a new message appeared. We know you're coming to Lagos. We know what you're planning. Testify as agreed and you'll be protected. Deviate from the script and you'll die before leaving the courthouse. She showed it to Ye-sung. He read it, then smiled, that cold, calculating smile that made him the Reaper. Good. They're scared. That means our plan is working. He typed a response on her phone. See you in court. Then he powered the phone down, removed the SIM card, snapped it in half. We're going dark from here. No communications they can track. No way for them to anticipate our moves. Won't they just assume we're following the plan? That I'll testify against Major Ademi and nothing else? They'll assume, right up until you don't. His dark eyes glinted. That's when the real fight begins. The rest of the flight passed in preparation. Di-ho, who'd flown separately on a commercial flight to avoid connecting him to their movements, sent encrypted updates. Min-ho's family had been extracted successfully, relocated to Singapore under new identities. The evidence from Min-ho's files had been distributed to multiple media outlets with instructions to publish if Ye-sung and Amara didn't check in every 12 hours. The dead man's switch was armed. If they died, the truth would still come out. Small comfort when facing assassination. Lagos appeared below them as the sun set, sprawling, chaotic, alive with energy Amara had almost forgotten. Her home. The place she'd fled in terror, certain she'd never see it again. Now she was returning not as a fugitive but as a weapon. The difference was significant. They landed at a private airfield, bypassing customs through connections Yi-sung had cultivated over years of international money laundering. A convoy of 3 armored SUVs waited, engines running. Nigerian security personnel hired through channels that couldn't be traced to intelligence agencies formed a perimeter. Private security. Yi Sung explained as they transferred from jet to vehicle. Loyal to money, not politics. They'll protect us because I'm paying them more than anyone else could offer. And if someone offers more, then Yoon Seo kills them. His sister's smile was sharp as she climbed into the lead vehicle, her black tactical gear blending with the gathering darkness. Simple economics. The drive to their hotel was tense. Lagos at night was beautiful and dangerous, neon signs in Yoruba and English, street vendors closing up shop, nightclubs just opening. Amara saw her city through new eyes, recognizing the corruption that Senator Okonkwo had fought against. The police checkpoints where bribes were routine, the expensive cars that shouldn't exist on government salaries, the casual violence simmering just below the surface. This was what she was fighting for, not just justice for one dead senator, but accountability for a system that had rotted from within. Their hotel was 5-star, security tight. Yi Sung had rented the entire top floor, 6 suites, controlled access, guards on every exit. Paranoid but justified. They were walking into a trap that they hoped to spring on their enemies instead of themselves. Thin hope, but hope nonetheless. Tribunal starts at 9 a.m., Yi Sung said as they gathered in the main suite. You'll be called to testify around 10. That gives us 1 hour to get in position, coordinate with the media presence we've arranged, ensure everything's ready. And if they try to kill us before we reach the courthouse, Amara's voice was steady despite her racing heart. They will try, count on it. Yoon Seo was checking her weapons again, her burn scars visible in the harsh hotel lighting. Probably during transport. Public enough to seem random, isolated enough to avoid witnesses. Classic assassination profile. So how do we counter it? By not being where they expect. Yi Sung pulled up a map of Lagos on his tablet. They'll assume we're taking the direct route from hotel to courthouse. We're not. We're using back streets, changing vehicles twice, arriving from the opposite direction. By the time they realize we've deviated, we'll already be inside. And once we're inside, then you testify. All of it. Every name, every connection, every piece of evidence we have. Make it public, make it impossible to suppress. His dark eyes held absolute conviction. The moment your testimony starts, media outlets worldwide begin publishing the evidence. Nigerian government can't stop it. Too many sources, too much momentum. They can still kill me. In a crowded courthouse on camera with international media present, he shook his head. That would just validate everything you'd said, make you a martyr. They're not that stupid, unless they're desperate enough not to care about optics. Amara moved to the window, looked out over Lagos's glittering skyline. We're betting our lives that they'll choose strategy over panic. We're betting our lives that we're smarter than they are. Ji Sung stood beside her, his pale reflection joining hers in the glass. And so far we have been. We survived the ambush, uncovered the conspiracy, got this far when we should have died a dozen times over. Survival isn't the same as victory. No, but it's the first step. His hand found hers in the darkness, squeezed gently. Tomorrow we take the second step, together. That night Amara barely slept. She kept running through the testimony in her mind, what to say, how to say it, which names to drop first for maximum impact. Ambassador Chukwuma, Major Ademi, the shell corporations, the money trail that connected everything. Senator Okonkwo's evidence combined with Minho's financial records created an airtight case. Corruption that reached the presidency, election fraud, political assassinations, international money laundering, all of it documented, all of it provable, all of it about to become public. Around 3 a.m. someone knocked on her suite door. Amara grabbed the gun Yoon Seo had insisted she carry, approached cautiously. Who is it? Yi Sung. Can't sleep either. She opened the door to find him in black tactical gear identical to his sister's, his sharp features drawn with exhaustion. Without speaking, she let him in. They sat on the balcony overlooking Lagos, sharing silence and fear, and the strange intimacy of people preparing for possible death. When this is over, he said finally, assuming we survive, what will you do? I don't know. Haven't thought past tomorrow. She looked at him, this dangerous man who'd become her unlikely partner. What about you? Go legitimate, like I always planned. Use the chaos from the tribunal to shut down the criminal operations, transition everything to legal businesses. Become boring, his smile was slight. Maybe hire a certain doctor to run medical clinics in Seoul. Someone who knows how to save lives and keep secrets. That sounds almost normal, almost, but we'd never be normal, would we? Not after this, not after everything we've seen and done. No, she agreed. But maybe we don't need normal. Maybe we just need purpose. His dark eyes held hers. You've given me purpose, Amara. Saving your life, protecting you, burning down this corruption, it's the first thing in 15 years that's felt like it actually matters. Not business, not territory, not power, just doing something right. She wanted to say something profound, something that matched the weight of the moment, but words felt inadequate. So instead, she took his hand, laced her fingers through his, sat in comfortable silence as Lagos woke around them and dawn approached like an executioner. Morning came too quickly. They dressed in professional clothes, Amara in a navy suit, Mrs. Chen had packed, Ye Sung in charcoal, looking like respectable citizens instead of the fugitives they actually were. Yun-Seo wore a security contractor's uniform, gun visible on her hip. Legal in Lagos if you had the right paperwork, which she did. The convoy assembled. 3 armored SUVs, just like last night, but different drivers, different routes, different everything. Yi Sung had planned this like a military operation, and Amara was grateful for his paranoia. They left the hotel through the service entrance at 7 a.m., 2 hours before the tribunal started. Took side streets through neighborhoods Amara recognized from her childhood markets opening, vendors setting up, life continuing despite the corruption. Lagos was resilient, always had been. The first assassination attempt came at a traffic light in Yaba. A motorcycle pulled alongside their SUV, rider masked, Uzi submachine gun visible. Amara saw it in slow motion, the gun rising, the barrel tracking toward her window. Yun-Seo was faster. She leaned out the opposite window, fired 3 precise shots. The motorcycle rider jerked, fell, bike spinning out into traffic. Their convoy accelerated through the red light, horns blaring, chaos erupting behind them. First attempt, Yun-Seo said calmly, reloading. Won't be the last. They changed vehicles at a pre-arranged location, switching from the armored SUVs to ordinary cars that blended with traffic. Switched again 20 minutes later. By the time they approached the courthouse, they'd changed vehicles 4 times and routes 6 times. Professional paranoia that saved their lives. The International Tribunal building was imposing modern architecture, heavy security, media vans crowding the perimeter. Amara saw cameras, journalists, protesters demanding justice for Senator Okonkwo. The entire world was watching. Good. That was the plan. They entered through a side entrance, bypassing the main crowds. Security checked their credentials, fake ID that Yi Sung had procured through his connections. Everything looked legitimate. Everything was a carefully constructed lie. Inside, the building was cold and formal. Marble floors, high ceilings, the weight of justice supposedly being served. Amara felt her heart hammering as they were directed to a waiting room. You'll be called in 30 minutes, a court official explained. Please wait here. The door closed, leaving them alone. Yi Sung immediately checked for surveillance, found 2 cameras, disabled both with equipment Yun-Seo had brought. They sat in manufactured privacy, preparing for war. Remember, Yi Sung said quietly, start with Major Ademi, establish the assassination, then pivot to the money. Name the shell corporations. Connect it to the Nigerian government payments. Build the case logically. And when they try to stop me, they will try. The prosecutors will object, judges will threaten contempt, Ambassador Chukwuma will probably have you arrested. His dark eyes held certainty. But by then, the media will have published the evidence. You'll just be confirming what's already public. They can't stop it, only react to it. A knock. The court official returned. Dr. Okafor, they're ready for you. This was it. The moment everything either worked or collapsed. Amara stood, smoothed her navy suit, caught her reflection in a mirror, amber eyes steady, box braids pulled into a professional bun, the small mole above her lip somehow reassuring. She looked competent, credible, dangerous. Yi Sung squeezed her hand once. Burn it down. She walked into the courtroom like she was walking into surgery, calm, focused, ready. The tribunal chamber was packed, judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys, media, observers. She recognized Ambassador Chukwuma sitting in the diplomatic section, his face carefully neutral. Recognized others, 2 government officials, oil company representatives, people who had everything to lose from her testimony. She was sworn in, took her seat in the witness box. The lead prosecutor, a Nigerian woman in her 60s with steel-gray hair, approached with a kind smile. Dr. Okafor, thank you for coming forward. I know this has been difficult for you. The prosecutor's voice carried sympathy. Can you please tell us what you witnessed on the night of Senator Okonkwo's death? Yes. Amara's voice was steady. I was working the night shift at Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Senator Okonkwo had been admitted for routine surgery. I was adjusting his IV around 11 p.m. when someone entered the room. He was wearing hospital scrubs. I assumed he was medical staff. And what happened next? He pulled a gun. Silenced pistol. Shot Senator Okonkwo twice in the chest. The memory was vivid, painful. The senator looked at me, said, "Tell them about the money." Then he died. The courtroom erupted in whispers. The judges called for order. "Did you recognize the shooter?" The prosecutor asked. Yes, I'd seen him before as part of the senator's security detail. Major Ademi, Nigerian military intelligence. More eruptions. More calls for order. Ambassador Chukwuma's face had gone pale. "Dr. Okafor," the prosecutor started. "But that's not all," Amara interrupted, and she saw the prosecutor's expression shift from sympathy to alarm. Senator Okonkwo was investigating corruption, international money laundering. His research showed Nigerian oil money being cleaned through Korean criminal organizations. Money that funded election fraud, political assassinations, and systemic corruption reaching the presidency. "Dr. Okafor, please stick to I have evidence." Amara pulled documents from her jacket, copies of Minho's financial records, bank transfers, shell corporations. Proof that connects Nigerian government officials to Korean mafia operations. Proof that Senator Okonkwo was killed to stop his investigation. The prosecutor looked panicked. The judges were conferring. Ambassador Chukwuma was on his phone, speaking urgently. And across the courtroom, Amara saw journalists typing frantically, cameras recording, the truth spreading in real time. "Auditor," the lead judge banged his gavel. "Dr. Okafor, you will limit your testimony to the events of that night." "No." The word cut through the chaos. Amara stood, facing the judges directly. "Senator Okonkwo died asking me to tell the truth, the whole truth, about the money, about the corruption, about everything." She held up the documents. "This is that truth, and the world deserves to hear it." Security moved toward her, but Ye-sung and Yoon-seo were already entering the courtroom, Deho behind them with more security personnel. The Reaper had arrived, and everyone recognized him. "These documents are now public record," Ye-sung announced, his voice carrying absolute authority. "Distributed to media outlets worldwide 30 seconds ago. Dr. Okafor is simply confirming what you can all verify independently. You can arrest her for contempt, but you can't stop the truth." Chaos. Buddha chaos. Judges shouting. Prosecutors arguing. Defense attorneys demanding mistrial. Security forces uncertain who to arrest, the witness, the mafia boss, everyone. And through it all, journalists kept typing. Cameras kept recording. The truth kept spreading. Ambassador Chukwuma tried to leave. Yoon-seo blocked his path, gun visible. "Sit down, Ambassador," she said quietly. "You're going to want to hear the rest of this." 2 hours. The testimony lasted 2 hours while the courtroom descended into barely controlled chaos. Amara named names, cited evidence, connected dots that powerful people had spent years keeping separate. She told them about Major Ademi's assassination of Senator Okonkwo, about the shell corporations, about Korean money laundering, about election fraud, about everything. And when prosecutors tried to stop her, when judges threatened contempt, when security attempted to remove her from the witness box, Ye-sung simply projected more evidence onto the courtroom screens. Documents, bank transfers, communications, undeniable, provable, damning. By the time it was over, 3 government ministers had been arrested. Ambassador Chukwuma was in custody. Major Ademi, who'd been watching from the security section, had tried to run and been apprehended. The corruption was exposed. The empire was burning. And Amara Okafor, trauma surgeon turned witness turned weapon, had survived. Ye-sung found her outside the courthouse after security finally allowed them to leave. Lagos was in chaos, protesters celebrating, police scrambling, government buildings under siege. The testimony had triggered something bigger than any of them had anticipated. "You did it," he said simply. His sharp features showed exhaustion and something that might have been pride. "You actually did it. We did it." She looked at her hands, steady now, despite everything. "Together, partners," he agreed. "So what now?" "Now we disappear. Let the chaos settle. Let them fight each other while we slip away." His dark eyes held hers. "I have a plane waiting. Korea, or anywhere else you want to go. Your choice." Amara looked at Lagos, her home, her city, finally having a chance at real justice because she'd found the courage to speak. She thought about Senator Okonkwo, about his last words, about the truth he'd died protecting. She'd honored that, finished what he started. Now she could finally let herself rest. "Korea," she said, "let's go home." They left Lagos as the sun set, the city burning with righteous anger behind them, flew toward Seoul and whatever future awaited them there. Yi Sung slept most of the flight, exhaustion finally overwhelming him. Amara stayed awake, watching clouds and sky and the impossible distance they'd traveled, from fugitive to witness, from victim to weapon, from running to fighting. She touched the BCG scar on her shoulder, her mother's mark of survival, and smiled. They'd survived. Against impossible odds, against powerful enemies, against everything that should have killed them. The blood debt was paid. The conspiracy was exposed. Justice was served. But more than that, Amara had found something she'd thought she'd lost in Lagos 6 months ago. Purpose, partnership, power, and the knowledge that sometimes survival meant standing your ground instead of running, meant trusting dangerous allies, meant burning down empires that thought you were just another pawn. Seoul appeared below them as dawn broke. Yi Sung woke, looked out the window at his city, no longer just his criminal empire, but a place they might actually build something legitimate, something good. Ready, he asked. For what? Everything. The future, whatever comes next. His slight smile was genuine. We survived Lagos. We can survive anything. Amara took his hand, laced her fingers through his. Looked at this dangerous man who'd become her partner, her protector, her unlikely ally in war. Partners, she said, always. The plane descended toward Seoul as the sun rose, bathing the city in golden light. Below them, Mrs. Chen was probably preparing their homecoming. Deho was likely already planning their next moves. Yoon Seo was probably cleaning weapons and plotting contingencies. Their strange, dangerous family. And for the first time in 6 months, maybe for the first time since Senator Okonkwo died in her arms, Amara Okafor felt something other than fear. She felt hope. The blood debt was paid. The empire was burning. Justice was served. But their story was just beginning. And she couldn't wait to see what came next.